fucking gigantic gummy bears. Or like, I think they're like the Troll brand or Trolley brand, whatever. And they're not huge. They're like 3 or 4 times the size of a normal gummy bear.
Yeah.
And when I went to buy them, the guy at the cash register was like, "Have you ever had the big ones?" I said, "Nah, man. I know the ones you're talking about too." I mean, of course, he don't know me from Cheyenne, but anybody that does knows I'm a fucking candy fanatic. Even I would have had second thoughts about that damn gummy bear.
Yeah.
It's a bit ridiculous. I mean, it's as big as my fucking thigh. I don't know how that would taste. I don't know the chemical composition that would go into pouring that much flavor or that much gummy shit into one cavity.
I mean, I imagine it's got to be just the same scaled up.
Yeah. I've heard some people say that they taste different, but I haven't tried it myself. I've always wanted to try the giant gummy worm, too. The one that's like this long as your fucking body. The 5-foot-long gigantic gummy worm. I haven't seen
that one.
There's just something about, like, huge candy that I don't know. In my later years of life, I still don't eat a whole lot, so... Yeah, I just don't know if I'd eat that much. A giant, like, there's a local candy shop, and they'd sell, like, the giant jawbreakers. The kind that are, like, as big as a fucking soccer ball. As a novelty, sure, but I don't collect action figures to pose them on a wall. I like to play with them, and I'm not going to buy candy to be like, "Hey, y'all, come look at my giant gobstopper. I'm going to eat the fucking thing."
Just walk by, have a look every now and then.
Yeah. Like 2 years worth of fucking eating a gobstopper or a jawbreaker. This is actually brought, I mean, it's actually posed a serious discussion between me and my wife because we have plans to go to Disney World later this year.
Nice.
And I've never been. So this is going to be a first for me. She's been before, maybe a couple times, at least once I know.
Okay.
So she knows like the inner workings. She knows the excitement and shit that I'm about to get involved in. And one of the things she keeps bringing up is all the food they have there. It's really delicious food almost everywhere you go, from the hotels to the snack bars to the places to eat at in Disney to the candy shops, the snack shops, the donut shops. Like every food thing you can get in Disney is like 4 or 5 out of 5, and it's cool. I'm all down for good food.
Yeah,
but she's telling me all these things that like she's like, yeah, like you're gonna be able to buy these like pretzels that are as big as like a HD TV. Not that big, but they're like huge. Like it takes 2 hands to hold these fucking pretzels. And I'm like, man, that sounds good. It sounds good in theory. It sounds good in novelty. But number one, I don't eat a lot, period. And 2, there's no way, even if I did, I could eat a fucking pretzel that big. Even in, especially in a sitting. And that's just a pretzel. There's donuts that are apparently that way. I've always wanted a turkey leg. They sell the turkey leg things there, but even I know that those are huge. Those are as big as my thigh as well.
Those are clubs.
Yeah. So, all this big food that they're supposed to have, like the novelty of seeing that and going, like, hey, there's a taco that's as big as my body. Ha, that's cool. That's awesome that somebody could make that somebody would make that. There's no fucking way I'm going to eat that. And then there's also the money thing too, where, if I'm going to spend $15, $20 on a pretzel, but only eat the equivalent of like $4 worth, now I wasted my money.
Yeah.
There is a thing about putting too much food into something that I've noticed a trend lately. I can't remember the other place, but my wife and I went to there was a snowball place nearby. Oh, Cupcakes. That's the other one. But we went to a snowball place nearby. I think it was called Snow Boogers, I believe it was called. And it's like a big ass trailer. It's got all this cool like 90s pink color design, and it's got candy all over it. And it's the idea is you get a fucking a cup of shaved ice, a snow cone, but they put this other stuff in it and on top of it as well. Again, for me, a candy and sweets fanatic, this is, you would think, bro, this is right up your alley, which I did. So my wife and I pulled a 180 when we passed it. We went back, went and ordered it, and she got one that had, again, it was a cup of fucking shaved ice, but it had like 6 or 7 different candy things attached in and around it. And I had, it was like a cheesecake ice cream kind of thing that also had some candy stuff stuffed on top. Again, looking at it and the novelty, a kid would see that and lose their fucking mind. Like it's a snow cone with a bunch of candy on it. Hell yeah, life is perfect. Look at me, ma, first world nation. But then when we started eating it, we got maybe 2/3, maybe like halfway through, and we were like, yeah, I can't do anymore. Like, I can't. There's too much stuff. There's too much to eat. There's too much candy. And we ended up throwing half of it away anyway.
Yeah.
There's a cupcake place also around here, that does the same thing. Like, again, it's a cupcake, a generic, probably about a palm-sized cupcake. Sure. Sounds good. A homemade bakery where they bake their own cupcakes and maybe they mix their own icing. That's their own perfect recipe, their own mom and pop recipe. Again, now that not as a novelty, just as a delicious treat. That sounds good.
Yeah.
But they put like 4 pounds of icing on top, and then they put shit in the icing as well. And you're like, man, like 2/3 of this thing is icing. The cake is like 2 bites, you know? Novelty sounds cool. Looking at it, design perfect, awesome. But when you actually buy it and eat it, again, this is coming from me, a guy that just ingests sugar into his eyeballs. I see that and then try to eat it, and I'm like, man, I'm fucking done. I can't.
Yeah.
I've eaten a bag of gummy worms and 4 Now and Laters and a bunch of Skittles and all this and 2 pounds of icing, and I can't even eat this cake. I'm not even to the cake yet. I don't believe there's a cake underneath this.
Yeah, you can't even see it.
Yeah. So yeah, it's going to be interesting when we go to Disneyland to see. Now, she also tells me that, and common sense explains this to me as well, that with all the walking there is to do in Disney, and now I've especially seen this now that we went over like the Disney World map, and I didn't even know that they were different, like, centers or areas, whatever. Like, I thought Disney was just one huge fucking thing. And it is, but it's also divided up into these fucking areas like Epcot and the Animal Kingdom and Disneyland, etc. And that already blew my mind. But there's so much shit in every area. Her argument is, yes, they're going to be big and there's lots of portions and you're going to eat a lot, but you're going to walk your ass off and ride and all that stuff, and you're going to be tired and you're going to be hungry. So we'll see. I hope so. I know for a fact, at a minimum, the main thing I want is a turkey leg.
Yeah.
Which I could have down here. We have fucking festivals and shit down here all the time. We sell that carnival shit, but this is Disney. Might as well have one there.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm just thinking in my head, like a fucking pretzel that I'm having to hold with 2 hands. It's just, I'm not going to be able to do that. I'm going to feel like such a dick if I eat like 5-6 bites and go, all right, you know, I ate 1/10 of it. The rest is going in the garbage.
Yep. That's about right.
So I'm looking at you, giant gummy worm or giant gummy bears bag, saying you started this shit. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the end of time. I'm Michael.
I'm Chris.
And there is no Adam today, unfortunately. Adam is he's a very busy man. I think the last that I spoke to him, he was groundbreaking a formula to some type of power generator I think he was working on. And when I specified more, when I got more out of him, something about building his own mech, I guess he's really into playing Xenogears and he's like locked himself in a basement or something. I don't know. I kept hearing well tall a lot. I don't know what the fuck that means, but yeah, he's taking care of some business today. So unfortunately he won't be with us this episode. Hopefully he'll be here next week. So yeah, I know everybody misses him. We do too, but the show must go on. So Chris.
Yeah.
What's it been like this week for you?
Pretty busy. Work's picking up. I'm getting a lot to do there, so I'm finding myself, working later than I should. And then I'm like, oh, I should go play some games. And then I sit around for a bit and I'm like, oh, wait, I never started the game. It's, I like to watch stuff on Twitch. And so I'm like, all right, as soon as, I'm done watching this, I'll go play my game. And then a couple hours later, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm okay. So really, 2 games for me, this week to talk about. One of them, no surprise, Destiny 2.
Yep.
As I mentioned, this week is Iron Banner again, or last week was Iron Banner. So I was working on that. I actually got pretty much the goal I was going for with it, which was unlocking the armor set on at least 2 of my characters. Because I already had on my first one, my Hunter, and I wanted to finish the set on my Titan. And I did that and even got one piece, I think it was, for my Warlock.
Chris, you have to forgive me. I probably have already asked this, and maybe you have already explained it too, but just in case, for new listeners and for your co-host that has no memory,
sure,
I explain what Iron Banner is. Like, explain how it works in the Destiny world.
Sure. So Iron Banner is a week-long PvP event. Well, I don't know if they actually changed if it's rotating still or not, but this past week was Control, which is, capture the zones and hold them and get kills. So in Destiny 1, the way it worked is this was what I used to basically hit max light level, because I didn't do a whole lot of raiding and whatnot, especially early on. So I would do, the normal events until I hit that soft cap that required me to do the raid, and then I'd go do Iron Banner. And I'd hit cap and never touch the raid. In Destiny 2, it no longer gives that powerful gear. So you can actually level up off of it. So really, Iron Banner has been turned into a cosmetic gathering thing.
Which, that's still cool. Everybody loves cosmetics in these kind of games.
Well, I mean...
yeah, I guess unless the cosmetics are kind of garbage.
Yeah, and right now I'm not a huge fan of the ornaments, which is kind of funny because the armor that drops has been there since the beginning of Destiny 2, I believe. But then they drop ornaments, or they don't drop. You have to purchase or earn the ornaments during the Iron Banner event itself, and then you can apply that to the armor you got earlier on. So instead of having to get these armor drops over and over, you have set goals to earn the ornaments, which change the appearance. And you can change, one slot or all of them. I actually went through on my Titan, and after I finished unlocking, I was like, okay, let me take a look at the, because we're in season 3 now. I guess it's going to be 3 seasons per year. So we're in season 3, and I'm like, all right, let me see how it looks. And I'm like, don't like it. It's the season 3 theme is kind of a medieval knight type thing, which is okay in concept, and it doesn't look terrible. But the season 1 look, the original one, was a samurai type theme one, and I like that much better than the ornaments. So I've earned the ornaments and finished getting geared to drop from the reputation packages so I could apply them, but I'm not using any of the ornaments.
Let me ask this then. Is it, this is me coming from the, the Final Fantasy 14 mentality. Sure. The only reference I really have. Are you able in Destiny, I guess 2 specifically, since we're talking about that one, are you able to mix and match pieces, like a head piece, an armor piece, a leg piece? Cool. So you can glamour things basically. Yeah.
Awesome. And I think, so on top of these ornaments, for those who aren't aware, and probably you in particular, you also have shaders you can apply to gear that change their color palettes.
No way. Awesome.
Yeah. So I have and that's kind of why I don't really like the season 3, because it's basically metal, for the night outfit. And, my shaders I like to apply don't really fit with that. So it's not
I
that
say
it looks,
no. I say fucking no way. Like this is the first time I've heard of some. Final Fantasy 14 does that. I know lots of games do that. I really like the more customization that you can do to your character in a game, no matter what level. That I fucking love that. I love that you can make your own shit. Basically, yeah, you took a fucking season 1 headgear and a season 3 pants, but you colored them and made it. I love that.
Yeah. Like I've always enjoyed the Iron Banner color scheme from Destiny 1. Destiny 2 threw in some green in it and made it like a, foresty type thing for at least the hunter anyway. I think all of them actually. But I prefer the original, which was more of a gold and silver or gold and white type thing. So I, up until this point, I've typically used that shader on my stuff. And by the way, just so you know, there's a whole subreddit dedicated to Destiny fashion.
Oh, I bet.
And man, I don't visit there, but every once in a while it spills over into the main Destiny subreddit. And it's just amusing, and it's cool that there's people that have so much passion about how their characters look. But yeah, so I use and there are factions within the game, and since Destiny 1, I've always been affiliated with the faction called Dead Orbit, and their theme is a black and white theme. So that's what I'm currently using, except for my Warlock. My Warlock, I don't know why, but it's probably mainly because of the way the armor for the Warlock is styled. It's got that magical feel, it's cloth. It's, think of MMO. It's that more traditional caster type armor, so it looks better in colors. As opposed to net leather or metal or what have you. So my Warlock is blue. Everything is a certain shade of blue applied to everything. And it looks nice. It fits with the floating, essentially spellcaster type. So I was playing Iron Banner, and then this week they released their latest update, which was a pretty big one. They unlocked added in prestige versions of a new raid layer, I think it is, and the last one, or the last two, or whatever it is that was missing. Not something I'm going to touch yet, but they added that in. They changed. I should have taken some notes. They added some stuff, but the big thing was working towards the moments of triumph now, and trying to get caught up on milestones, because I didn't do really most of the milestones last week because I was doing Iron Banner. So I didn't really get much of a power gain. I think I'm up to 372 for my hunter and 371 on the other two. So I'm pretty balanced. Surprisingly, when my hunter was 360 something and my other ones were 300 or 305.
Wow.
But it's not as easy as it used to be, but it's still really easy when you actually sit down and look at the progress I've made. Because in Destiny 1, you could just take an armor piece of any type, for any class, and infuse it into another class. So I could take my extra hunter headpiece, infuse it into my Titan headpiece, and hey, I'm suddenly equivalent to my main character. I just needed another drop. In Destiny 2, it's limited to that class. So you lose that little bit, but because of the way drops work, it's not that big of a deal. So that's, and it was kind of frustrating because I'm like, all right, I want to get this done with Iron Banner, but I have a new game I want to play, and that is Octopath Traveler.
Oh man.
So I was like, all right, I'm going to finish my Titan's armor. And then I only got the pieces on the Warlock because I was like, all right, I can unlock the next tier of rewards basically if I get to rank 35 with the Iron Banner faction. Like, all right, that's my end point. Stopping there. I did that. I'm like, all right, step back, go play this other game. So, Octopath Traveler.
Here we go. Man, it's so crazy you actually are going to talk about this game because I was debating on talking about it today.
You bought it and playing it?
No, and that was going to be part of my discussion. Okay. It's just coincidental that apparently you already have.
Well,
so
let
you'll
me
have answers to my questions.
Let me take a drink of water, and I'll get right to it then.
Okay. As he's taking a drink of water, I'll just vamp out a little bit. Let me think of maybe the mansion of the Coliseum from Final Fantasy VI. Not the Coliseum, not the Opera House. Okay, your water's long gone.
Yeah,
I'm saving that for next time.
All right, appreciate that interlude.
You're welcome.
So, for those that don't know, Octopath Traveler is a newly released JRPG released on the Switch, and it is a quaint little game. It's nice. So I'm going to give you my overall thought on it real quick before I dive into, details.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is a solid RPG, a solid JRPG in particular. But so far, I haven't seen anything that made it super stand out above, other games. Like I said, it's solid, but it doesn't have that unique or, I don't know. Nothing really jumps out at you about the game, at least for me.
Yeah.
So, Octopath Traveler's thing, and given the name, is there are 8 characters. And you choose whichever one of the 8 you want to start with. Each one of them has a different job. So you have a hunter, thief, apothecary, dancer, cleric, scholar, merchant, and warrior. And none of that's spoiling anything because that's the first thing you do is pick a thing and it tells you what they do.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's been all over this game since God knows how. That was like a big thing was what are these 8 jobs? Yeah. What are they going to be? That's been everywhere.
And it's always interesting when you get into a non-combat class as a job, merchant, scholar, or apothecary.
Yeah.
So apothecary's thing is, combining ingredients to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, the ingredients aren't terrible to come by. I don't use them just because I don't want to, I'm a bit of a hoarder anyway, but I want to save them for boss fights and stuff. So I typically don't use it in, run-of-the-mill battles. The scholar is a magic user with the ability to determine enemy weaknesses and health. So that's somewhat useful. At least the weaknesses are. That's the biggest thing. I wish he was kind of more useful in actual combat so I could use them in serious situations for that weakness targeting, because enemies have these weaknesses, and even the one enemy, there are multiple tiers of one enemy. So you have these little frog guys, but the frog guy 1 and frog guy 2 looked almost identical, but there will be something extra on the next one, or it'll be bigger, or you look different in some way. Like the frog guys progressively get more and more armor and stuff on them as they, rank up in these tiers, which is cool. And they'll typically share like 1 or 2 weaknesses, depending how many they have. Enemy weaknesses have ranged, I think, from 2 to like 6 things. The ones with more weaknesses tend to be bosses because they tend to have physical and magic weaknesses, whereas normal enemies may have 1 magical weakness and 2 physical or 3 physical, but that 1 magical, so they have fewer. But yeah, so being able to identify those weaknesses early on is super useful. Especially
I feel like such a shitlord, man, because I know this is not saying anything about the groundbreakingness of this game, but I know that there are so many RPGs out there that have that mindset, and my mind is racing trying to remember them. But where like you have an imp, and then the next 2 dungeons down you got an imp, but they're carrying a sword, and you get another imp down the road where he's bigger, a little bit more muscle bound, but he's carrying a broadsword, and it just builds up. Like, yeah, I like the idea because that is a better variants for me, just from my mind, my ease of mind, than just a palette swap.
Yeah.
Fucking duh. Chris, God of War just did that. Mm-hmm. Remember, you see different variants of the, almost all of them, really. But yeah, I even though you can look at it and tell it's a copy paste, come on, again, going from old school where it was, you have a red imp, later on, same imp, it's a blue imp.
Yeah.
We just changed the shirt color.
I mean, that's
at least they put a little bit of effort into it,
Yeah, that's a classic, palette swap. So the Scholar's good. The Scholar is good on the magic side because a lot of them don't have either don't have magic straight up or only have one type of magic, whereas a Scholar has 3 just straight up. Mm-hmm. The Merchant, she is interesting in combat. You've got a couple of different things there. One is stealing money from an enemy, which is whatever. I don't use it except for pretty much on bosses that she's involved with, because whenever you use it, it shows you a percentage of what your odds are of taking the money from the enemy, and it's usually super low. So I usually don't bother with unless it's a boss where I can try over and over anyway, and I know it's going to be a good amount of money because it's a boss. But the other thing is, in the middle of combat, you can hire people to help. The prices are, at this point in the game for me, beyond the first 2, way too much. I'm sure later on when money's not an issue, probably be a lot better. And I don't expect to unlock any more. So from the start, I see the ones I'm going to be using in game with that character, But I didn't even touch that because I knew I didn't want to spend a lot of money. But then I realized the first tier that cost, only 150, whatever the currency is, it gives you a defense boost, a physical defense boost for 2 or 3 turns, just straight up. I'm like, okay, that's totally worth it. I don't care if they're doing 1 damage to the boss.
Yeah.
I need the defense. And one of the neat things about the battle system is you have these points called BP, which I'm assuming are battle points. I'm not sure if that actually spells it out, and I'm just remembering wrong. But as you earn these BP, which every turn you earn 1 unless you spend them, and then you don't earn 1 the turn after you use them. So you kind of have a risk reward thing there. Do you use it now or save up until you have more? Because you can hold up to 5, but the most you can use on any one thing, I believe, is 4. I don't think there's anything. There might be something that limits it 3. I think there's some spells and stuff that limit at 3. But in general, 3 to 4, and you can maximize your BP usage for a particular skill or spell.
Okay.
With using that on, say, like hiring the soldier, I believe it is, for the merchant, instead of that buff lasting for 2 turns, it will last for like 8 if you max it out. So you save them up, burn them all at once, and for 150 gold or whatever you want to call it, you're now buffed for a long time. Yeah. And I mean, that's across the board, with how you buff spells. Like you have your tier 1, cure spell that cures the party a little bit. You buff it up, and then with, I think, 3 BP makes it equivalent to the next tier cure spell, which is 3 times the amount of MP to use. So it makes it super efficient to just do regular cures and then save the BP for when you need that big heal all at once, and then you're using a third of the MP and you're getting the same thing. Or you save them up and you have to use the big heal and use BP as well to make it even bigger, So it's this whole management system with how it adds another layer to the MP and even HP management system, gives you more to think about and more options too. The combat is your typical turn-based combat. It's divided into rounds. A round is pretty much, everybody goes, and then the next round starts. And you earn a BP at the beginning of each round. So, something I just discovered today because it never happened before. I actually had an enemy get a surprise attack against me. So I didn't get to go in the first round at all. But I still earned a BP for that. So even though I got ambushed, I technically had a small advantage because my first attacks, now I had 2 BP instead of the one you normally start a fight with. So all my first round attacks were more powerful. So ultimately, aside from getting hit and losing health, I didn't really lose anything for them going first. Another interesting system in this game is that all of these characters have something they can do out of combat.
Okay.
So like the hunter can provoke people, which you basically do a 1v1. Any NPC you can talk to. Oh, it's real quick. This is one of the only JRPGs I've ever seen where you can't talk to everyone you see.
Really?
Yeah, like there'll be 3 NPCs standing next to each other, and maybe one of them will have a speech bubble, and you can talk to that one. The other 2 are basically background. And I think that's purely because everybody has a reaction to your NPCs, out of combat ability. So it makes sense in a way, okay, we're going to have 2,000 NPCs to code versus 10,000 NPCs to code, Yeah. It makes sense. It's kind of odd at first, but then you're like, okay, I get it. So most of the people I can talk to, there's a reason to, or they're the padding on the ones that have a reason to, just enough to where it's not only the people that are relevant, but also a few more. So you actually have to go around and look and talk to people to figure out who's who and what you need to do with each. But yeah, so the hunter can 1v1 people, which has a few uses. One of the really interesting things are the way the side quests work, with these out of combat things. And, in the description, when they, first give you not really tutorial, but a information screen about the hunter's ability. It's like, this is provoke. If you use it at certain times, things will happen. And it gives an example on screen like, oh, this girl doesn't like this guy because he's a little wimpy guy, But if you go and provoke him with the hunter and then purposely lose, she's like, oh, he's so tough. So it's like, okay.
Okay.
So, and hey, side quest complete. So there's a lot of things like that, that these things impact. The thief can steal from any NPC.
Oh, wow.
They will have up to 3, I believe, is the maximum items an NPC can have, and you will have a steal percentage. Like sometimes, especially in like the first couple of cities, it's like, oh, you have 100% chance to steal these basic items, and the next tier is kind of 80%, and then you get into varying below that, down to literally 0% chance. And as you level, those percentages will go up somewhat. So that's interesting, and it's a good way to get items where I'm not spending anything, or even getting materials that are just purely shop fodder to give you more money. And kind of so you have these, ways to get these items, like with stealing, and you can provoke and fight people for essentially no reason if it's not involved in a side quest, because most of them they're either really tough or really easy for you. There's not many that are in between. So the experience and points you earn in a fight from provoking at the beginning is super worth it, because you can, whatever city you're in, you can get a little bit of a boost. But after you've gone to like 2 cities with the hunter, it's not really worth it for that extra experience or points.
Right.
But I totally lost my train. Oh yeah, risk reward. So that's a reward side of it. But there's also a risk to it, which I think it's kind of crappy. But you have a set number of times you can fail. And this applies to any of the out of combat things, and they all stack. So if I go with my thief and try to steal from someone, I think it's like 6 times. It's 4 to 6 times you can fail before you hit the limit. So I'll go steal with my thief 4 times, and I'll go try doing this other thing 2 times, and that'll make me at 6, and then my reputation's bad in the town. Everybody knows I'm a scumbag then that's trying to do stuff. But then all I could do is go to the inn, or not the inn, but the tavern, talk to the barkeep and say, hey, raise my reputation up. He's like, yeah, pay me an arm and a leg and I'll do it. And then you just go back and repeat what you were doing. So the amount it costs to get your reputation up is really high. Like the first time I did it cost me 1,500 money. And at that point, I mean, even now, that's still a pretty good amount. I'm to the point where equipment and stuff is costing me, if I want to really upgrade, like 20,000. And I can upgrade like one character every like 3 or 4 tiers. There's all this equipment I can't even use because I can't afford it.
Wow.
So money's pretty tight. So in that sense, it is, hurting you. If I go out, I'm sure there's a way I could go out and grind easy money, but I'm not doing any real grinding at this point.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so you do have that. The apothecary guy, he can do, it's called inquire. Basically, you talk to someone and you find out information about them. This is the only one that is 100% chance, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the only one that's 100% chance, that has any sort of chance associated with it. And instead, there are level caps on NPCs. Like initially, you'll be able to talk to everybody and find out more information about everybody in the town. And then later on, it'll be like, oh, you have to be level 15 to inquire about this person. Or you have to be level 20. I think the highest I've seen so far is level 40. So they expect you to come back to these places later to do these things. Some of them may be involved in side quests. Some are just going to tell you where a hidden item in the town is. Some literally have no benefit to you talking to them other than just getting a little blurb about their background. Now, here's the issue I have with this out of combat things is the scholar has one called scrutinize, which essentially is the same thing as inquire, except for there's a percentage attached to it. So if I have both in my party, I can walk up to this NPC, talk to him with the scholar, and it's like, oh, you have a 10% chance. I talk to him with the apothecary, oh, hey, I immediately have it.
Oh, okay.
So what's the point?
What's the point of, yeah.
So the scrutinize thing, which I thought was cool when I first saw it, is it's actually used as part of the plot to investigate things. And you pretty much have no failure chance on those because it's part of the story. So you're talking to these NPCs, getting clues from them, and then you have this little cutscene type thing where it's like, the inner monologue. All right, so I talked to these 3 people. They said this, and this, and you actually answer questions. Who did they say it was? What time of day did it occur? Where did it happen? And then you answer them and you get them. I haven't gotten them wrong, so I don't know what happens if you fail them. But you get them all right, and he's like, that's right. It's always happening here. These are all the details. I know the answer to this mystery. He's a mystery solver type guy. So that little part is pretty cool. It's kind of impossible to lose unless you just button mash through the text boxes. And even if you do that, you can kind of look at the answers and go, okay, for most of them. I've only had 2 of those because they're only as part of that, part of the scholar's story. Yeah, really disappointed that the scholar's scrutinize is pretty much worthless if you have the other guy. Let's see. The warrior also has a 1v1, so essentially it's the same as a hunter, except for, so to be more specific about the hunters, you don't fight with yourself, you fight with your beasts, because your hunter is a beast tamer. And you have this, what is it? Not tiger, but panther-ish, something like that. Some sort of big wild cat companion that you have, and you can also tame other beasts out in the wild. And each one will have some sort of attack. The same enemy will have different tiers of that attack. Like the frog guys I was talking about, they attack with pole arms. And the first one is just, okay, attack with the pole arm. Later on, it's like double attack with the pole arm. I just got one earlier that was a triple attack with the pole arm. And I did a lot of defending and trying with 7% capture rate to get that guy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so your provoke, you're only fighting with your beasts, which gives it a little bit more difficulty. You can still use your items to heal yourself because your beasts don't have health. It's all your health. So you can heal yourself that way with items and whatnot in combat. The warrior is it's him. It's true 1v1 between the warrior and whatever poor townsfolk you're attacking. So they're kind of similar. The merchant has the ability to buy items off NPCs, and the pool of items is the same as the steal. So you can steal everything that's 100%, and then if there's something you really want that you can't steal, you can go buy it. And when you buy it, you have a chance to get money off. So it costs 100. You have a chance to get, a whatever amount discount.
Gotcha.
I haven't had many things that I wanted to buy because they were super expensive. So if I can't steal it, I pretty much just ignore it until I can come back at a higher level, or it's something story related, so I kind of need to buy it, or side quest related. So much stuff.
This is the podcast, exactly what it's for.
Yeah. The other two characters, the dancer and cleric, they're out of combat abilities, are similar in that they're both used to get an NPC on your side in combat. You can actually call them in combat for a set amount of times, and then they go back to where they were. The dancers is allure, so you use your feminine ways to bring someone on your team, and that one has a percentage to it, and it's a pretty low percentage for what you would think. Because when I first, and you can pretty much go to these characters in any order. It's going to be a little more difficult to skip one, but they're basically in a circle around the map, the innermost part of the map, around this body of water. So whatever your starting point, you go left or right or whatever you want to do, and then you have them all unlocked. And yeah, so when I unlocked the dancer, I used a lure, and the first person I used on it was like, 100% chance. I was like, great. The next one, it was like 30% chance. I'm like, not so great. That one's actually useful.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know. I think it's okay though. I currently have a guard from a town that I use the ability on to get on my side, and he's really good to have at certain points.
Nice.
The cleric has guide. So the cleric uses their holy, position and reputation to get someone to basically help her out.
Okay.
And it has a percentage too, but it tends to be higher, I think. Not sure if there's a reason or, there's some pattern to NPCs and what kind of percentage you get with those, but it's nice to have that little bit of extra help in combat, primarily for two reasons. One, after you summon them, they stay for X amount of turns.
Okay.
Typically, it's probably 3 turns as a base. That sounds about right. Unless they take a ton of damage, and they take a ton of damage because they actually take hits for whoever summoned them, which it doesn't tell you at all anywhere. I didn't know that until it happened in battle. My cleric goes to get hit, and all of a sudden the NPC's in front of it. And my cleric's health didn't take a hit.
Nice.
And it stayed there. I had a fight, I think it was earlier. I was in an area I shouldn't have been. So I was taking a ton of damage. And the From full health, my cleric would have been one shot, but the NPC took it instead and then left. It probably has the same health as the character does, just a arbitrary number. But it was enough to send it away, but it saved my cleric, So that's a really cool mechanic to have. I typically only use it in boss fights, because it also helps hit those weaknesses. To get into combat a little bit, the weaknesses are basically breaking or stunning the enemy. They call it breaking game, but you stun them for a round, not including the round they get stunned in. So if they haven't gone yet in that round, they don't get to attack in that round or the next. So it's useful, and they show a bar at the top of the screen with the turn order and stuff. It's useful to break or stun the enemy that's going to go next, and try to tear them off so nobody gets to go that round except your team. And then murder them the next turn.
Some combat strategy. Good.
Yeah. And breaking an enemy will take between 1 and however many hits of that weakness, I should say. Because if it's weak to swords and axes, I can use a combination of both to, weaken it or break it. Some of them, like bosses, and even some of the normal enemies at the point where I'm at, they get really high. And I don't have a lot of multi-attack outside of the hunter. My hunter has not left my party since the beginning of the game. I started with hunter. My hunter is my highest level person and will not leave my party. She is, in my opinion so far, what I've seen from all the characters, the most powerful one. She gets the earliest AoE. I guess technically if you start with like the warrior, he would, but his isn't as good as the hunter. The hunter actually gets a multi-attack AoE, whereas the first AoE you get with the warrior is a single hit AoE, which is still good, but if you need 6 attacks against the enemy to break them, then that one AoE is going to do 1 hit on 4 enemies, whereas if they're weak to range bow and arrow attacks, then my hunter can do 5 to 8 against everybody at once. So it makes it really good, unless they're not weak to bows, and then it's annoying, but can't be strong against everything. There are support jobs. They don't call them support jobs. It's like, I think they actually call them classes, maybe support class, and you find these aren't something you earn in the story. They're something you have to actually stumble across. So far I have warrior and thief. So my hunter is now a hunter warrior. So each class has at least one weapon they can use. Some of them have multiple. When you equip a support class, you unlock all the weapons of that support class. So the hunter starts with axe and bow. By putting warrior on my hunter, I unlocked sword and polearm. So now I have 4 different weaknesses I can hit with my primary weapons on my hunter. And there's a whole job point system where you earn points in battle, and then you unlock more support abilities, support skills for each class. So since I have 2 equipped to my hunter, I can put these points into either my hunter or the warrior, or either any combination of each to unlock stuff. So like my hunter, who is good at the AoE stuff, has the warrior's AoE with polearms now. So, and the single strike AoE sword. So I have 3 different AoEs I can do with my hunter to immediately try knocking out weaknesses, 2 of which are multi-attack. So yeah, I think she's a little broken, to be honest, at this point. I don't know if I'd be saying that about the warrior if I started with him, but I can't think of a single other class based on what I've seen of each that would compete with the hunter and warrior, which is kind of I mean, it's okay because you typically have that in a game, you know, in an RPG, you have that one damage dealer that's really good. But it seems like a bit much compared to the others. So hopefully as I level the other characters, which is, I'll get into that in a second, hopefully as I level them, they'll get better in their own right. In particular, I'd like to see stronger magic. But I think I'm limited to a scholar on that. And I don't know. I'm going to have to level them up more to figure out what's going on. And as far as, you know, strategy, usefulness in combat. One of the kind of annoying things is the characters you're not using don't gain experience, you know, when you're not using them. It makes sense. But you have 8 characters who you have to use at certain points when you're doing their story. You have to have them in your party. You enter a city without them, your cutscene isn't triggered. You have to actually go change out your party and then hit the trigger for the, you know, to continue that character's story. So my hunter right now, I just hit 31 earlier, level 31. Mm-hmm. I have 4 characters that I think 3 now, because I hit one of them and leveled up. I have 3 characters that are level 15 or lower. It's like 13 to 15. Because I haven't had a need to use them. I use them for their story. That's the only reason they're 15 or, you know, close to 15. And that's it. I have the hunter, I have the thief, the cleric, and then my 4th slot is whoever I have to have for the story or whoever I'm trying to level at the moment.
See, that's an initial criticism I've had, again, and everything I say in this section is going to be outside the box because I haven't played it.
Sure.
But so it's great that there are 8 travelers, but the fact that they're all landlocked to their own class, I mean, I guess because it fits the a story or the story, it makes sense. But you only have those 8, and they are what they are. And even with those 8, unless you somehow, even Mass Effect, there were characters I just didn't care for. Were they all memorable in their own right? Sure. Were they all cool? I mean, yeah, most of them were, but you only had a party of 3 in that game. So I would pick 3 that I want, and those 3 kept constantly getting played. And again, same mentality until there was a mission that came up where I had to have them on there. And that's, you would think in 2018, this was just something I was hoping with this game, there would be a workaround, or that would be a thing that would be addressed, and it doesn't sound like it's being addressed. Matter of fact, it seems like it's getting more pushed down in the ground, because thinking of another class type game out there, which arguably, yes, has many more characters to choose from and potentially more characters to put in your party at a given time. I think 5 was the maximum. Final Fantasy Tactics. But Final Fantasy Tactics, you weren't limited to the class. You know, you could mix and match whatever you want. And again, I know this is not tactics. It's not the argument I'm making. I'm making that there's been ways around these things before, but this game seems very... It seems like it's telling a certain story and is generating a certain type of gameplay, and it's not living outside of its own self. And it just seems very, man, I don't know. I've watched a quick play of it, a quick look of it. I've seen all kind of reaction trailers to it and whatnot, but the quick look was the first time that I saw real gameplay. And man, it's going to sound kind of asshole-ish, I guess, but right after about 10, 15 minutes, I was like, man, this game looks very okay. You know, I'm not saying that it got wrapped up in its own hype. I didn't really notice a lot of hype. It was less and less of a hype ordeal and more of I'm hearing a lot about it. You know, less and less like this is going to be the RPG of 2018, and more I just kept hearing Octopath Traveler. I mean, the name itself, you're going to spot that name out of something anyway. But when I finally got around to seeing, all right, what is this hubbub about? What is this all about? And watched some of the gameplay and went, okay. I mean, it looks okay, but nothing blew my mind. Even from me, you know, the retro RPG lover, the sprite bit lover, all that, like all these things it was trying to go for, it hits on some marks, but I don't know. It's not from the outside looking in, it was not blowing it was not making nothing about it that I saw made it like a must go buy.
Yeah. Like I said, it's a solid game in itself. It just doesn't do anything extraordinary, you know?
Yeah.
The music for the game is really good. I don't typically care a whole lot about the music, but the title screen's music, I was like, man, this makes me want to play Final Fantasy 11, which has really good, really memorable music. And in the game, you know, depending where you are, what's happening, you have different music, and it's all pretty solid. Of course, there are going to be some better than others. You know, that's inevitable. But no issues really with music. The art style of the game is good. The only thing I'm not a huge fan of is it actually does, you know, blur as the focus changes on what layer you're on or whatever. And the way it's done is a little annoying for my eyes. Not enough to really impact my gameplay, but every once in a while I'll be in an area where like 75% of the screen is blurred. So I have just this one spot that's not blurred, and that doesn't look good. Aside from that, it's, you know, solid in that aspect. The story, most of the characters' stories are at least interesting. They tend to be very, for a lot of the characters, if not all of them, I'll say most, because I can think of a couple that aren't really, but most of them are very emotion-based. So pretty much everybody has some sort of sob story attached to them. Which is what it is. It could definitely be done without it in some cases. In some cases, it's done really well. And you're like, oh, that's sad.
A common complaint with the story I'm hearing so far, and again, this is very early stages, so I mean, people have probably already been past it or have been to a point past what I'm about to say, but a lot of people are saying that this seems, as far as the story goes, this seems like a game that has 8 random people that have their own story to tell. They just happen to meet.
Yes.
I'm not seeing or hearing, or people are saying they're not seeing or hearing or reading a unifying story. Yeah. And that's, I mean, depending on how far into the game that unifying thing is, that could make or break that. You know, if you're going to have 8 characters that have their own story, those 8 stories better be really fucking good. They need to be to a point to where whenever they come together, the coming together part's like an afterthought. But I'm not hearing too many people saying like, yeah, there's like these 3 people and like their story is like perfect and the other ones are good. I'm hearing like, yeah, they're, you know, they're stories.
Yeah. And if I look at like the in-game mission thing, I'm actually going to load up my game so I can take a better look, but it's actually divided out, I believe, by character. And I don't know that there's a quote unquote main storyline. So far, all I have seen is, okay, you have 8 people. They have various stories, which are okay in their own, for the most part. Of course, some I favor more than the others, but, as far as main story, I'm on the screen now. I have 8 little flags, one for each character, and the flag kind of grows as you progress in that character's story. And the way the stories are divided is they're in essentially chapters, and most of them are pretty quick to go through as far as the missions themselves. I think I'm currently clocked in at 22 hours on the game. I have now completed 3 of 8 Chapter 2 missions. And I found it was about an hour to hour and a half per mission. A lot of in between was actually going from place to place, trying to navigate, dealing with random battles, whatnot. I actually, one of the neat things about the world map is it shows you which city you need to get to for each character's next objective. And it gives you a level recommendation. one of the things I was curious about when I started the game was, okay, you start out the game, your level recommendation is 5, just an arbitrary 5 for everybody on the map. You pick one to start with, you get to 5 pretty quick, and then you complete that. Well, the recommended level for everybody else for this initial earning of the characters are, I guess, technically chapter 1, it bumped to 7. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. I'm getting stronger. I'll just destroy everything otherwise. And then it got up to, I think 9, and then 11. It's basically going up by 2s. So by the time I got to the last character, my recommended level was, I want to say 17. And the first, which didn't change, and I haven't seen them change at all, the first chapter 2 mission the lowest one had a recommended level of 21. So it kind of does that gradual increase as you get the characters unlocked to get you to where you can do the chapter 2 ones, which are more locked in place. And the starting paths and stuff, they all increase up to that set amount. So like the starting area, I think the lowest difficulty enemy I can go to right now would be like level 7 or 11, one or the other. But most of the lowest ones are 11 now. So even if I go back to the starting areas for all these characters, I still have to actually, at least a little bit try in the fights. The enemies won't have a whole lot of health, but they may have, 3 hits to weaken them, which I may have to hit to kill them, or I can just brute force through it, depending on, how low they are.
Yeah.
So I think the level scaling works out really well for a game that gives you this many starting options, without feeling like, oh, I have to start over here because this is the lowest level area, and then I'm going to stomp everything else. It's no, it gradually increases on its own. But yeah, so I have yet to even see anything that would, okay, not true. Overarching story. I'm not going to get into details because it's a bit spoilery, but I have seen NPCs show up in other character stories that revolve around one of the characters.
Okay.
So there may be, ultimately culminate in, all of these issues, all of these things that are happening have some sort of similar root cause, the man behind the curtain, so to speak. There may be one. Don't know. Like I said, I think I'm 3 out of 8 on chapter 2. I don't know how many chapters there are. My flag, I think, is halfway. So if I look at the journal, it looks halfway to me. So I'm guessing there are 4 chapters per character. So that gives you roughly 32 story missions to go through. And each city has its own side stories or side quest banner, which most of mine are pretty low, even though I've tried to do side quests. There's a lot of traveling back and forth. I actually found out that some of them require you to escort a person, either use a lure or guide on them to actually bring them to another town for a side quest. I was like, oh, I need to find someone to escort this person. I hadn't unlocked escort yet, on either character. I got to Dancer first, but she's my 4th character. And I ran into an NPC in like the 2nd town I was in that needed to be escorted somewhere. I was like, okay, let me talk to other NPCs, see if I can find someone. I'm like, I have no idea who's going to take this person. So I'm like, all right, I guess I'll come back. And then as I went back and I talked to the NPC and I was like, oh, I can escort them. Talk to them. The option's not grayed out. Sure enough, yep, I can escort them. So, hey, side quest finally completed.
Nice.
So there's a lot of them that require you to come back later. There are side quests that require you to steal things from NPCs around the town and then turn them in.
Oh, Jesus.
It's pretty amusing. It's like, and it's kind of funny, that you have this party. Like, I'll have my thief and cleric all the time in my, in my party. They're always there. She doesn't care if my, thief is stealing. There's no acknowledgement of this. So it's like, I imagine she's just sitting there, I'm not seeing this,
Yeah.
But yeah, so overall, like I said, I think it's a solid game, but nothing groundbreaking, nothing, it's not so far I haven't seen anything that makes it a must play.
Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not saying that the game has to be groundbreaking. It definitely fits a couple things even on this podcast, I've asked for, I've a good return to the sprite based era, which I mean, damn, Steam is all about that. There's like a dime a dozen in Steam, but, having just stuff set in a fantasy world. I like that idea. I want that. I think for me, the fact that this isn't groundbreaking only hurts because I didn't know anything about it, if that makes any sense. Like, yeah. I kept hearing this game. I kept hearing this title being brought up. Again, I've heard like some other podcasters talk about having interest in it, and I have seen some people talk about how nice it looks, etc. But again, this has not been a, God of War 10 out of 10 must have, holy shit, throw everything else away, clear your library. It's just been repeatedly mentioned. And after a while, it's more like, okay, what is this about? And I finally saw it and went, yeah, okay. But at the end of the day, again, it doesn't have to break ground for me. It doesn't have to be a brand new, like, world-shaking thing. I'm sure that I, just as you have, can tear this thing apart and tell you the other games that this is mirroring and what it came from. I hope. What I'm really waiting to hear, spoiler-free, from you and other people is, how's the story end up? Mm-hmm. Is the story worth it? It is the fact that it looks like a pretty good RPG. It's set in sprites, pseudo 3D sort of background-ish. It has 8 characters that are locked into class and their own story. Like, is the whole end of the day package worth it? Mm-hmm. And only time will tell. Yeah. Right now, this game is still, as of this recording, this game is still brand spanking new. So it's like what, a 60? Is it $60?
Yeah.
I don't. Okay.
Full price,
it's
Switch game.
It's a full price Switch game, and yeah, man. Like I said, time will tell. I'm not dropping 60 on what I saw. Did not make me want to immediately rush out and drop 60.
Yeah, and you know what? Totally agree with that. Based on what I've played, I don't think it's a $60 game. Kind of sad, but this is going to be probably my primary focus. I think I'm going to, step back a little bit on Destiny 2 and try to get through this game. I'm not saying that in a negative way, like I'm trying to force my way through. I just want to get it. I just want to play it, and actually complete it without, something else popping up. Or getting too sucked into Destiny 2 still, because I can grind on Destiny 2 forever. It's got that MMO grind, and I don't want that to pull me away from other games. So I'm trying to make sure I balance things enough.
Because it will do it.
Yeah. So. Yeah. That was my week.
Sweet. Well, for my week, oh boy. So, I say that like there's a revelation, but it's really not. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Maybe it will be. We'll find out. It's kind of sad that Adam isn't here, because it was going to be sort of a reveal for him as well. But I'm sure he'll listen to this and rage either in his car or in his house, wherever he listens to this episode at. But so last week I mentioned that I was working my way through Breath of the Wild again. Mm-hmm. That was my go-to game for afternoon, day on end for most of last week. I had completed all the shrines first.
Yeah.
I believe that if I'm not mistaken, there are either 2. I think there's actually only 2. There may be 3. And I should know this because I just did it, but I think there are 2 or maybe even 3 shrines that can't be completed until you actually finish a Guardian, which is basically one of the 4 big dungeons of the game. So I did every shrine up to that point. And again, mind you, but at this point, I mean, we're talking like maybe the 15th or 20th shrine. I was already a powerhouse, even in master mode. But because I was using, and I'm realizing how powerful I was now when I get to what was my last thing I was doing. But I was using, I wanted to say DLC, but not DLC, amiibo armor from Link to the Past, Link's Awakening, Twilight Princess. And again, as soon as I got the 4 first shrines knocked out and got the abilities and got the ability to leave the main area, I was booking for hot spots for all kind of things, like top ingredients to make food, clothing to manage weather, elixirs to go through the volcano area, fairies to revive myself from flying, killing Lionels and getting weapons, going to main weapon. Like, again, this is from the mindset of somebody who's been through this game a few times, and I know what to farm and where to farm it. And especially with the ability, even if I think the most troubling thing for me to farm, which I stopped actually farming and just kind of did them as I went through the game, was the star pieces, because they only happen so much. Even though they do, you can still farm them. There's still a way to go to a specific area and set up this look in this direction. It gives you the most field of view, and then put your fire down and rest till this specific time, and then watch. And it gives you this place gives you a perfect vantage point to where when one drops, you can reach the star piece in like 2 minutes flat. So there's even with the dragons as well, the pause time. So very sorry, this is a Breath of the Wild discussion. This game's been out for over a year, but again, just in case, spoiler warning in case I do give away because I've seen all behind the curtain in this game, so you've been warned. Even when it comes to farming dragon pieces from the dragons, there's every one of them, there's a place where you can camp out, and a dragon will be in your face within like a minute. You can hit whatever you need to, swoop down, grab the item, go back, set up another fire, rinse and repeat. Almost anything that you need in that game is completely farmable, completely accessible. And that was something I was exploiting very, very early in the game in this master mode, because I knew it was going to try to kick me in the teeth, and I was ready for it. Having done all that, spending all those hours, I would do like 2 or 3 shrines and then go farm for like 2 to 3 hours. Like, that was my pattern for a good while. Doing that made me like unstoppable. It even got to the point where even the silver Lionels weren't even that much of a challenge. They were time consuming and they were definitely rough, but I was taking them on. Like, I was going Lionel hunting and was having fun doing it, which again is good for me. It added more fun to the game. Once I had everything that I kind of wanted to go hunt for, once I had a good set of weapons and I had done all the shrines that I could do and had all the armor that I needed and I had access to everywhere, it was now time for me to go start the Guardians. Before I started the Guardians, I stopped. I thought, wait a minute. Once I beat the 4 Guardians and then go do the last 2, maybe 3 shrines, then I go beat Ganon and that's it. So this game is like downhill from here. I've already done so much of the quote unquote hard work. The long leg of this game I've already done. So this game's pretty much over once I start the Guardians. They're not that hard. It'll be interesting to see how difficult they are. The bosses will be, but again, I know all the equipment I'm bringing to the fight, it's not really going to be at all. So the main reason why I wanted to go back into this game, aside from doing my own personal homework and seeing how I feel about it, so far away from the last time I played it, was all the DLC was finally out, and I had only done a little bit of the first DLC, so it was time to get in and get all this DLC started. Sure. There's all kind of things you can do in the DLC. There's different armor pieces you unlock. There's different weapons you can go find. There's of course, the master mode itself, which is a harder difficulty. Enemies hit harder. They take a lot. The usual difficulty spike shit. They have a quest called the Quest of the Sword. I believe it's called something of the Sword. And this is the first thing I wanted to get into. Now, I know because I've already had it spoiled, and I think he actually tells you, the Great Deku Tree tells you this whenever you go talk to him, that once you finish this mode, you basically unlock the Master Sword, which means that it does 60 damage to every enemy, not just Guardian specific enemies or enemies in the Hyrule Castle. Okay, that's cool, but I'm walking around toting these Silver Lionel swords that do like 58 damage a piece anyway, or 58 damage. So 58 of those and a 60 sword, that's not really going to do much for me. This is what kills it for me. What would make this, I think we actually brought this up, Chris, in the episode where we talked about Breath of the Wild. This was an opportunity for Nintendo to add a little bit more crispness to this game, and they chose not to. That's the only thing that it does to the Master Sword, from what I can find. I haven't done any deep research, but I don't think there is much deep research to do. From what I understand, when you finish I'm gonna have to look it up now because it's pissing me off. It's like the sword, the quest of the sword, the mission of the sword, something. Whenever you finish this DLC, the actual quest, all it does is give you that 60 damage to everybody, and that's it. It would have been perfect for them to say, this, whether it keeps the damage or not, this makes it where your Master Sword doesn't fucking break.
Yeah.
This makes it where the Master Sword does not go away ever. That's what it should have done. And it didn't. And I think it's kind of sad because that's twice over that this game could have been perfect. I said the same thing the first time I actually got the Master Sword, that I think the fact that it goes away, I say break, but it's more like it disappears. It loses power is what they say. The fact that it takes so much to get the Master Sword in that game. It takes a lot of hearts, which there means there's a lot of shrines you have to go through. There is a good bit of legwork. Whether you know the legwork or not is irrelevant. There's a lot of work to get that sword. And in the time of you not having a Master Sword to having a Master Sword, you're going to go through a long list of weapons to use. From fucking tree twigs to double-handed great swords to flaming wands that shoot out fireballs. All these weapons that you're going to get, you're going to like, they're going to break, you're going to be mad, you're going to have to find them again, etc., etc. It would have been great, period, to just have the Master Sword and it not break. Like, that should be the reward of having the Master Sword. You know, you have this sword that after all this shit you went through, you have one that doesn't break.
That's my biggest annoyance.
Okay. I guess I get it. You're really, really following through with this breaking weapons thing to the Master Sword. But you're not saying it breaks. You're just saying it loses power. Okay, sure, game, whatever. Now this Trial of the Sword comes out. That's what it's factually called. And you're thinking, perfect. So if you do this thing, then it will not be unbreakable or not lose its power. No, it just unlocks the power cap for it. That rubs me the wrong way. I hate it's a missed opportunity that's twice over. That just it aggravates me. So anyway, I go get the Master Sword, and again, I love that is the best way to unlock the Master Sword in any Zelda game, and I'm talking about even my favorites. I love the fact of you having to increase his hearts, and then physically, as you're pulling the sword out, it's zapping his strength, and he's pulling out like shing, shing, just little by little. I love it. It was just so good to do that again.
And every time you think you're about to pull it out, nope.
Yep. I think 13 is the hearts you have to have. I could be wrong. And I think I went there with 12. And I mean, the tension was there. And right when the Deku Tree said, stop, you're not You're going to kill yourself if you do that. Stop doing that. And I was like, oh man, that was so close. The way the camera slowly zooms in, the way he slowly pulls it up inch by inch, man, it's so good. That is one of the coolest things. I love that so much about that game. So I get the Master Sword out. I got all this shit going on. And, he's like, hey, come back here if you want to do the Trial of the Sword. Okay, here I am. I have nothing else to do. I'm going to do it now. Let's go. I get into the Trial of the Sword. This is basically Eventide Island times like 90. For those that don't know, that haven't done the quest in this game, there's an island in the southeastern part of the map, and it's way out there by itself. It's called Eventide Island, and the gimmick, so to speak, of this island is that you are stripped of everything. Your weapons, your armor, your food, your ingredients, everything. You have lost it all, except for your abilities, your bomb, your magnesis, etc. And you have to basically solve the puzzle of the island. That's as much as I'm going to tell you. You can figure out on your own how to do the island. Well, that's what the Trial of the Sword is. They put you in these, what I discovered later, there's 3 difficulties, quote unquote. The first difficulty has like 8 or 10 rooms. The second one has like 20, and the last one has like 20 or 30. I could have those numbers wrong. Don't give a fuck. The point is, you are thrust into this trial and you have nothing. You have the shit that they give you in the rooms. You basically go room to room. You start in a room. There's some enemies off in the corner, and there's usual Breath of the Wild stuff around you. There's some stones, there's some twigs, there's a camp place where the enemies are at, which has a couple weapons, maybe something, a meat on the skewer, etc., etc. And you basically have to use your knowledge of the game and skills to beat the enemies. When you beat the enemies, you go to the next room, and then so on and so forth. The first time I did this, I cleared the entire first area. I don't want to say no problem. It was definitely challenging. It was at this point that I realized exactly how powerful that armor had made me, because a little fucking bokoblin hit me one time and took off like 7 hearts. And I was like, oh, shit. All right. Well, this is not going to be easy, but again, when you come from all the shit that I had already done, fighting Lionels, getting better at parrying, getting better at flurry rushes and all that shit, it's just time consuming, because I'm in master mode and I'm fighting bokoblins with twigs, or I'm throwing rocks at them, or I'm throwing bombs at them. Another thing about master mode, for people that don't know, the enemy's health regenerates. So if I walk up to a bokoblin and I swipe at them, their health goes down a little bit, depending on the weapon. After about 5 seconds of me not doing more damage, their health starts to regenerate. You have to constantly keep attacking them for them to die. And unfortunately, though your bombs are powerful, they're very versatile. They're a good utility tool. They're not exactly the most powerful. If you're gonna bomb like a mokoblin, the big tall ones, I bombed one of those to death because I literally had nothing else around me, and throwing boulders or throwing rocks wasn't doing any good. I think it took me about 15 solid minutes of throwing a bomb, backing up, throwing a bomb, backing up, all the while trying not to alarm other enemies, etc. Yeah, it was a fun time. I made it all the way through the first difficulty area, which I'm guessing this is for, I guess you beat a difficulty area and then they throw you into a room that doesn't have enemies. It's more like a treasure trove area. You can find some ingredients. There's treasure chests with maybe like swords and shields, and it's like a reward / preparation area. I fucked up and let a fucking fairy loose and didn't catch it, and that pissed me off, because I would love to have a fairy in this area, but that got away. So I got these items mangled together and I went to the next area, which was, I guess, like the medium difficulty type thing. And again, the room count, from what I understand, basically doubles. There's a small amount of rooms for the easy difficulty. There's like twice the amount and then twice the amount again, something like that. I made it about 3 rooms in and was getting my shit kicked in. And I had used up all my food. I couldn't cook because everybody kept hitting me. My shield broke. all of my shields were breaking. My bow, I had like 40 something arrows stocked up. Those all got wasted. Swords were breaking. I was down to twigs and I was down to bombs and I died. And I was like, all right, that's okay. Let's see where I wind up at. They put me back talking to the Deku tree. So, if you're going to do the Trial of the Sword, you have to do the entire Trial of the Sword in one go.
Wow.
Now, here's a few extra caveats, okay? Because I did go try this again before I got fed up, and it was actually time for me to go to sleep anyway. You may or may not be able to save in one of those middle areas. I don't know. I didn't save. I was so frustrated at the fact, like, I was really pissed off. I lifted up a rock and a fairy went away, and dumbass me did not even think to capture it. I don't know what I was thinking. I fucked it up. No. I'm sorry. It didn't fly away. It was in the area, and I ran up to it like a dumbass instead of sneaking up to it, and it flew away. So I was so flustered by that I didn't even think to try to save. So maybe you can save in that area. I kind of doubt it. The difficulty spike, again, with it being in master mode, is there. If don't go through that first area thinking it's easy, because the second area, which is only the medium difficulty, apparently started kicking my ass big time. Mm-hmm. And there's also the mental note of, okay, once I get past these rooms, which there are twice as many rooms as the one I just went through, I'm going to go to another spike of difficulty, and those rooms are 3 times as much. At the end of the day, when I do all this, Michael, what is my reward going to be? The Master Sword is going to be level 60 for every enemy. I say level 60, but it's 60 damage.
Right.
Doesn't really mean shit to me. Mm-hmm. Because it still breaks, and I can go out and kick a Silver Lionel's ass in about 5 minutes. So, if I do this whole Trial of the Sword, it's just to have a notch on my belt. It's just to do it for the experience. It's sad that it's not for the reward that it's supposed to be for. Yeah. I really, really wish I really wish that I wanted to do this, because at the end of the day, I had one weapon, powerful or not, that I could swing away and never have to worry about breaking. Mm-hmm. So once that happened, I put the game down. I kind of fucked around in Steam for a little bit. I played some more of my Steam library games, went back and, again, just played like 4 or 5 random various titles, put some more time into some, tried some more. I did go back to that Mutant Mud game. I was in the mood for a platforming shooter, collect jewel type game. And started playing Final Fantasy VIII. Because okay. I said last episode or episode before that I was really, really debating on trying to play this game again. For those that haven't heard, I have played Final Fantasy VIII twice in my entire life. This is a big thing for me because Final Fantasy was a huge, like, tentpole RPG franchise. We'll have a whole Final Fantasy episode someday, trust me. But Final Fantasy has gone way down the tubes for me over the years, and I'm not alone. There are many just like me. For whatever reason, maybe because recently I played Final Fantasy VII, I just went through that whole entire game again. That makes somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 times I've played through 7.
Hey, Michael?
Yeah.
Just to remind you, episode 24 was series and review for Final Fantasy.
Well, maybe what I meant to say is I was literally thinking in my head, but of course people can't read my mind. We were going to have a not a series and review, but a Rise and Fall series we were going to start. Okay. And that's going to be one of them, is Square/Final Fantasy. So I was thinking more of the fall and the negative things about Final Fantasy and Square in general, but that's down the road. That's more to come. But yes, I played Final Fantasy VIII twice in my life, and I know from talking hours combined into days upon end with Adam that Adam cannot stand Final Fantasy VIII. I want to say Final Fantasy VIII was his breaking point for the entire series. May have even been some points about 7, but I know definitely 8 he doesn't like. I don't think you cared for 8 too much.
Yeah, 8 has issues for me, but my biggest one was that my save got corrupted and then my disc got scratched, so I never finished it.
Yeah.
But my biggest gripe about the game is the draw system.
Mm-hmm. So, in my mind, being 36 years old now, this game came out in 98, 99. I want to say it was somewhere around that time. As I pause for time while I look it up real quick, I have to know, because I remember being shocked by the release date. I put Final 8. Good God.
1999.
Oh, man. 1999. Yeah. Okay. So in 1999, in my personal life, I was a junior in high school, fixing to be a senior. I don't remember when. This came out February 11, 99.
Yep.
So I was a junior. I might have been either a late junior or early senior when I first played this game. If I'm really getting down to like the month time frame, I don't remember. But sometime between this and before I graduated high school in like May of 2000, I had played through this game twice. I have never even, like, not even started and just didn't go through it again. I have not played this game at all since, like, that time of 2000. So, with all the negativity I hear from Adam, with the complaints I hear from you, with the very up and down, but mostly negative, almost at times horrid shit that I hear about Final Fantasy VIII from other people, just the random, like, air of the world, I personally don't remember a fucking thing about this game. A fact that is coming to more realization the further I go into it. If I can take myself to like a week ago and remember before I started playing this game, of course, I remember the cast of characters. I remember there's some weird, like, story contrivance with these other three characters. There's like some time travel. A sorcerer was like a maid or a nurse or a adopted mother or something. I barely remember the story. I remember there being some building that like had 4 drills and goes underneath the ground. I think that was a prison. I remember there being an airship that turned into a dragon, basically. That's fucking cool. But maybe 1 or 2 more little bitty things. I don't remember anything about this game. This is a 4-disc RPG. This is a Final Fantasy fucking RPG that I have played in my life at least twice, and I can barely remember a fucking thing about it. So, not only the fact that I can barely remember anything about it, the fact that it's been close enough to 2 decades since I have actually played this game, I was having this inner turmoil where, like, yeah, I felt like I was bandwagoning. I felt like I was hearing other people tell me that Final Fantasy VIII was so horrible, and I was going, yeah, fuck that game. But when I actually question myself, it's not that I don't disagree with people, it's that I don't fucking know, you know? So I decided to go back through Final Fantasy VIII and play this game. There are many other RPGs that I could have done this to. I know Adam really wants me to go through and play Xenogears because we have like a kind of a game pack we're going through. I was actually in the mood. I've been in the mood to play Kingdom Hearts again, but more on that when I get through with this 4-hour Final Fantasy VIII tirade. I just said fuck it and started playing Final Fantasy VIII. Now, I own a physical copy of Final Fantasy VIII. Yep. So what I'm about to say next is going to sound like it's legal. Fuck you. I own the copy of the game. This is something that Adam holds over my head for years, that I actually own Final Fantasy VIII.
I mean, I do too.
The process for me getting to play this game on a fucking emulator was pissing me off. I don't know what the fuck has happened to my PlayStation emulator or the settings or what the fuck has been going on, but I was using EPSXE for the longest time, and I had no problem playing any fucking game ever. One, it took close to 3 hours of me troubleshooting ESPXE and Final Fantasy VIII through multiple copies of the ROM and multiple settings types across the board and multiple forums reading, and all I kept hearing was, dude, this game works perfect for me. I don't know what the fuck you're doing. I'm like, I didn't fucking do anything. It's just, it was having all these technical issues. It was having this double reverb audio thing where if I clicked a button, I would hear the chime twice. Music would repeat repeat twice, sound effects would repeat twice. I get into a battle, I would have no battle menus, even though I could select things, I could hear what I was selecting. When the game went from one cutscene, if I went from one area to another, the fucking sprites would wig out in between as the screen was fading out and fading back in. Just across the board, having all these issues. I said, fuck it. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to research on my lunch break tomorrow at work. I'm going to see if I can find maybe another emulator, maybe some more, maybe something else, some other avenue. And I found another avenue, which was another emulator. And I said, okay, I'm going to try this one.
Is it PSX Fen?
No, it is Mednafin. That's what I'm using.
Okay.
Very command line based emulator, by the way. It definitely takes some getting used to, but once you understand it, it's all right. I said, okay, I'm going to get this fucking emulator. I'm going to download it. I'm going to install it. I still got my games there. Still got my ROM. So all I got to do is just try it. And I'm not going to spend any more than fucking 30 minutes on this shit. If I have to configure things longer than that and it's still not working, fuck Final Fantasy VIII. In the back of my head, a little fucking annoying fairy chimes off. You have a copy of the game. You've got a PlayStation. Just hook the PlayStation up. No. I'm lazy. I don't want to fucking do that. I never had a problem with a PlayStation emulator. Never. Have never run into issues with that. For some reason, this was not fucking working. And I tried a couple other games, and other games seems to have sort of the same. It was just too much hassle. Chris, you know what I mean? When you get to a point where you're like, I'm done. Like,
I don't know what happened
I can't even get the problems to recreate themselves. So now I don't even know what the fucking problem is I'm looking for anymore.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to that emulator. That's one I used to use as well. It was the only one in existence for the longest time, and it worked perfectly.
Yeah.
But when I went to start speedrunning Final Fantasy VII, I had the same issue. I was like, I've played this game before on emulator, I'm pretty sure, but it just had issues, and I actually went on the, I talked about before, the Final Fantasy speedrunning community Discord. And I was like, hey, I'm having issues. Can someone tell me, is there particular settings I need or whatever? And they're like, don't even bother. Go use PSX Fin instead. I was like, okay. And I went and did literally 3 minutes and I was set.
Yeah. That's kind of how Mednafin was for me. Unfortunately for Mednafin, it's very, like I said, it's very command based. I mean, you have one config file, which, well, I mean, most of them have one anyway, but that's where you do a lot of your editing, where if you want to change the screen size or toggle buttons or whatnot, and that's a fucking Notepad++ document that's millions of lines long. So it's a lot of intuitiveness it's a lot of working to do things you wanted to do, but again, it's damn near one-to-one emulation. No problems, no audio fuck-ups, no graphical fuck-ups, everything. The videos play smooth, the game plays smooth, no problem. Oh man, I wish I should have took notes of all the shit I went through, like the problems that I kept having, and it's like, oh, well, try this, and I'd try that, and it would fix one problem, but two other ones would pop up. Oh, well, we'll try this thing, and it would fix one of those two, and then it would not fix the other one, it would bring an old one. Anyway, got the fucker to working. It just took an incredibly long time, and again, I know all I really had to do was go hook my fucking PlayStation up. I could have done that, but
you know what? I actually downloaded it off Steam when I started playing it again.
Yeah, I thought about that. I thought about it, but that game is like $12 on Steam, and I was like, man, this game was on sale for $4. You should have did that when it was on sale. I'm not paying
That's when I got it.
The fuck you price to me was not going to be spending $12. If it came to that point, I would go just hook up the PlayStation. I said, no, I'm going to get this to work the way I want to. And there's other reasons too. I mean, I like having an emulator mainly for save states. I like the ability of going, oh shit, I need to go start laundry, save state, get the fuck out of my seat. Not have to wait around to go find a save point. Custom screen resolutions, adding shaders and all this stuff to make the game look the way you want it to. Whatever. This is emulation. People know all about it. Moving on. So, overarching thoughts on this game before I get in these few notes. I'm kind of sort of liking it. It's more like a 6.5, 7 out of 10. I don't want to put it at middle ground. I mean, I kind of want to put it more toward the 6. I kind of want to put it more toward the middle ground. If I'm taking it off the hype of 7, and if I'm balancing that with the way people say it's bad, and the way that like I'm kind of having a blank stare as I'm playing it, it's a little bit above average. I haven't found anything so far that makes me want to turn this game off. I haven't really found anything in here that's horrible. I've made I've made a couple lists of pros and cons, but nothing has been like, man, actually there's more pros in my playthrough so far than there are cons. I don't have an actual time right now because I didn't take it last night when I stopped playing. But as far as the content in the game goes, I'm at the place where I'm about to go assassinate the sorcerer, Adia, I believe her name is Adia. I don't know. We didn't have a way to pronounce the name back in the day, and I never looked it up either. So Adia. And I just had the cutscene where Final Fantasy VIII spoilers, I guess. Sure. I just had the cutscene where she was controlling Renoa and the fucking statues came to life and they're attacking her, and that's where I am. That's the part in the game that I'm at, which, if I remember right, that's pretty close to the end of the first disc. I think when Adia does the ice through his chest, I think is the end of the first disc, but I don't know. It's been a while. And again, I'm not seeing really much in here that's making me completely just vomit over this game. I haven't really decided how I want to talk about this. I guess I'll say the cons first. Why not? Try to end this session on a positive note.
All right.
So very early in the game, I had a very odd. I took one note and it took another note immediately after it. It has a very odd shop system. It said, like, the building I came across was named a shop, but it was solely for upgrading weapons. I was like, well, what? This is not a shop. This is like, why doesn't it say weapons? Why doesn't it have like a weapon symbol? Kind of nitpicking the system, but sure. I felt it was justified. When you see shop, I mean, that could mean many things, but typically I think of like items. But then I went one screen over and took another note. Oh, all I had to do was walk one more screen. Okay. I also was thinking that apparently this little town, I didn't notice the screen spot where I could walk through. So I thought this town only had that shop, and that shop was only a weapon upgrade shop. I was kind of getting pissed off at that more than anything. Like, is there no item shop? No magic shop? No, I don't. Sure, whatever. And of course, I go one screen over and there's an item shop. I will say that coming from the Esper system and then coming from the Materia system, going to the draw/junction system, I don't care for it. I do get it now that I'm doing it. This is an argument I made before in another episode. I just think it's too much hassle.
Yeah, exactly.
So the Guardian Force system as a whole, where you basically click one thing at a time and you learn these spells one thing at a time. I mean, that is what it is. I really prefer the Esper materia, where like you equip a materia and you have like a rate that you learn everything.
Sure.
So, if you want to learn the really powerful spell, that's going to take you like 50 battles. But if you want to learn like the first level fire spell, it's going to only take, like 5 or 6. But this thing having, your Guardian Force junctions to your character, which means it basically they're attached to each other, and then your Guardian Force is learning things, learning abilities and traits. Doing that one by one, I don't really care for that. It is sorta pseudo convenient that once you learn one ability, you don't actually have to go click another ability. They will automatically start learning another ability. Yeah. But when you make a mental list of the abilities you want to learn in the order you want to learn them at, you still have to go back and, hey, I learned this one, now I got to go change the other one. A little bit of time consuming there. That combined with the draw system, yes, I completely agree. Having to draw magic from enemies and out in the real world to use it, that's just a hassle to me. It's just a hassle. I was trying to be internally critical about that, where I was thinking, okay, well, it was nice having 99 Fire 3 spells, but it was nice having enough magic points where you could theoretically cast Fire 3 50 times. But are you literally going to cast that many times? And aren't you just going to go to a hotel anyway or pop a 10 up and get all your AP back? Mm-hmm. I thought that trying to put some points in favor of Final Fantasy VIII, but once I actually drew the magic in the game, I spend too much time getting the magic back. Like, you don't sleep to get magic. You know, if I go out in the world and I draw fire from a point and I get 5, when I cast those 5, that's it. The only way to get more fire is to draw them from that point or draw them from an enemy. You can't sleep and you get those 5 back. So you can understand that over time, it's just a hassle. I get it. It's just more hassle than what it's worth, and I don't care for it. Is it the most horrible thing in the world? No, I'd be pressed to think of more horrible ones, but it just it pads the shit that you have to do in this game. The timing, man, I guess I should have put my pros first, but there is. So the idea of having timed inputs in the battle, I've liked that ever since Super Mario RPG did it. That was the first RPG for me that ever had that. Mm-hmm. And I love that. My issue with Final Fantasy VIII is that the timing for the inputs in this game seems so fucking precise, and there's no real instructions on when to do them, to learn them. You basically have to try, and you keep trying until you get it right. Yeah. So if you're playing a Squall, they will tell you, hey, you have attack commands. So whenever you go to swing at an enemy, if you press this button at the right time, then you potentially can do some more damage. The thing is, they don't even give you a hint of when that time is. If there's a way in a tutorial that I haven't read, because I know there's a tutorial segment in this game that has like a lot of text, then my fault. I just haven't read it. But I figured out Squall's pretty easy, but once you get Renoa and you get Zell and you get Selphie, all of them have their own specific, precise time that you have to hit it. And this is me being a pissy little whining, complaining guy. I get it. You have to do a lot of guessing, checking, and a lot of testing to figure out where that input needs to happen. Once you do learn that, then it's just on you to get it right. Yeah. I just feel that fucking window is very, very, very small, and that combined with having to figure out when to do it on your own just makes it overworld movement, very herky-jerky. You do not use an analog stick in this game. You use the D-pad, and I'm all for using the D-pad. Do not misunderstand that any way, shape, or form. I love using the D-pad for movement. I have no problem with using D-pad for movement. To the point of when I play a lot of my Steam games, like, the 700 I just bought in the last Steam sale, and I go play those, and it's like a side-scrolling platformer, and they force me to use an analog stick. Fuck that. I hate that. I go immediately to the options and find a way to use a D-pad. I love the movement with a D-pad. However, in Final Fantasy VIII, the world of movement is very herky-jerky with that D-pad. It seems very sensitive. It seems like, okay, Chris, you would know from looking at a map in, let's say, Final Fantasy VII, that if you are walking down a street in Final Fantasy VII, and it was a street, and at the top right corner of your screen starts the road, and the bottom left corner of the screen ends the road, you know that you're going to have to hold your D-pad in a diagonal motion to move up. Common sense. In Final Fantasy VIII, there are way too many instances and way too many areas where that diagonal is kind of shifted toward the left a little bit, or kind of shifted down a little bit, and you're trying to move your finger between diagonal left. It's just fucking herky jerky. It's just a little bit off. They use the artistry of the worlds they have that painted look. I get that. They look pretty cool, but I think they focus more on the world look than controlling your character on the world.
Sure.
It's just a little off. Again, not the worst. It's just off. Very odd direction and design when I was first playing as Laguna and Ward and Kyros. I don't remember why I put this note. I think this may have been the same thing, like just how I was controlling them. It may have just been overworld controlling for all I know. And it was a slightly convoluted, complex train puzzle segment when all you were trying to do was capture the president. I thought that thing was it was a lot of instructions for this whole big train ordeal. And I felt like the idea was cool. They just had too much. Man, that's just me complaining. That's not a horrible thing, not a deal breaker. It's just, man, this is a very complex train puzzle segment we're going through. We're just kidnapping a president. The twist with him being like a fake was pretty cool, but whatever. Pros that I like so far. Chris, I still love this intro cinematic. Yeah. I love the intro to this game. It does have some very, airy artistic shit to it. It's trying to be artsy fartsy at points. I get that. I'm not blind to that.
Yeah. But
the music, the sound design, the actual fight between Squall and oh god, I just fucking blanked. Squall and Cypher. Good God. Thank you for not giving me that. I literally my eyes went wide. Audience could not see them, but I was like, how the fuck do I not remember his name? I just had a cutscene. It was very important. The one that shows him back and not dead, which I knew he wasn't dead, but yeah, I really love that cutscene. As old and dated as it is, as the graphics are, I love them swinging those, oh god, the fucking gun blades that are so fucking impractical. There's no, Cypher kind of gets away with his because his buttstock is kind of elongated, and it seems like Squall's is more pistol-like. I'm like, you're not gonna fucking fight somebody like that. There's no way, man. Come on. Maybe if you're Cloud and you're super fucking strong to where angles and geometry don't matter, but whatever. Seeing those two fighting in that movie and hearing the fucking clangs of their sword come together and the swelling of the operatic music that's playing and, him scarring his face and doing the whole, the scene, his first limit break is that fire move where the screen comes into his hand and it blows up, and having that at the beginning of the movie. Oh man, all that. Still love that cutscene. I've always liked the music in Balam Garden. I always have. And again, I'm gonna give a shout out to God. I want to say it was. I hope I get this right. I hope it was Two Best Friends. It was either them or it was Giant Bomb or Easy Halla. It was one of my podcast people, and they were bringing a discussion about pronouncing people's names. And they're like, yeah, well, this is a game that was released in 1995. The internet wasn't even really around, and even then, there wasn't like a plethora of pronunciation, and they didn't even have voice dialogue. So I'm sorry that I pronounced, her name Eris. That's all I knew it was. Same thing with this, it could be Balam Garden for all I know. Balam sounds good. It rolls off the tongue for me. That's how I always say it. I always like the music there. It's always been one of my favorite tracks in the game. Yeah, so here we go. Input commands during battle. I love that. When I saw that, I had completely forgot that was a fucking thing. This is how much of this game I've forgotten. Yes, there's, when you are in a fight, just like old games like Mario RPG, if you press a button at a specific time, you can increase your damage. Cool. I love that. And then I went on to put the note about, by the way, the implementation sucks. I've seen it done way better. This was a very cool personal thing for me. This is something I've mentioned in previous podcasts as well. And I think Adam even brought it up as well that this game doesn't. I just forgot. The enemies scale to you in this game. They actually scale to the party average. Very cool for me. I discovered this very, very early on because I stepped outside and did some battles in the local area and got about 2 or 3 levels. I stepped into the forest and apparently there's like a big like slug kind of monster, like a caterpillar monster that apparently has 7 million hit points and kept killing me. I went to another forest and found a much less powerful but still good XP enemy. I got up to like level 7 or 8, something like that. I forget what level I was at. I don't remember. I did get an extreme amount of levels for me. And then I went back to the beginning area and started fighting enemies, and it was taking almost the same amount of time to kill them. And I was doing more damage, but they were dying. I'm like, I know these fuckers die in like 250 hit points. Why are they not dying at 900? Did some research. Enemies scale to you. This will be beneficial for me on a personal note for later on in the game because I fucking hate I hate in any game, specifically RPGs, when they give you the end goal. The end goal of the story game is to beat this boss. But we also have this side boss. This side boss is very fucking powerful, has like millions more hit points, and it's going to take a lot more leveling and knowledge and all that to kill them. You kill them, you go back to the story enemy or story boss, you fucking wipe them off the floor in 3 hits. I don't think this game is going to do that because the enemies are going to scale. This is going to be very interesting to see how the enemies progressively scale with me. And it's also going to be interesting to see how I think this one has Ozma. I think Ozma was the secret boss of this one. It was either that or 9. Ozma was either 8 or 9. I don't remember. But I do remember there being a super powerful hidden, like, secret extra boss in 8. And it's going to be interesting to see what it's like to fight him if he scales with me. So that means the fights are going to rely more on my skill than just how much shit I have. Same goes for the last boss of the game too. So
what I read is that some bosses have a cap because otherwise they'd be impossible.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's still good. I haven't found any places yet that I really, really want to farm and grind just yet. I haven't really got to the point where I've had to either, so we'll see. Various dialogue pop-ups throughout the game that I wasn't expecting. For example, in one of the early missions of the game, I went off to, and I'm talking like the first mission of the game, I went to go fight Ifrit and gain him as a guardian force, and I had used Shiva a couple times in that match, and when Ifrit died, he was like, yeah, I underestimated Shiva. Apparently if you don't have that and you just beat him normally without calling Shiva, he doesn't say that. So different dialogue pop-ups in this game that can or can't happen. Cool. Nice plus. Another thing that I do like and have always liked, I've been feverishly, or I'd say religiously almost, doing this every place I go. I love Triple Triad. I'm still a big fan of the Triple Triad game, and I like the fact that they tether the ability to talk to somebody and or challenge them to a card game to the same button. You can use this button to talk to somebody. If you press this other button, they'll also just talk to somebody, but if they have the option to fight them, that option will come first. I like that. That saves me the guessing game of, let me talk to you. Okay, now let me talk to you in hopes that you're going to fight me.
Yeah.
It saves me time, and I like that. No complaints with Triple Triad. I mean, I liked it when I was playing 14. I still like it here.
I wish I was better at it.
Yeah, I like challenging all the people and challenging them multiple times to where I get one of every card that I don't have from them. I like that they show like the card, like if you fight somebody and they have a card that you don't have and you win, every card that's in white is one you already have. One that's in blue is one you don't have, so you can select it pretty easily in case you forget, because I think I'm up to like 60 something cards now. I lost count about 20. So I would see and I'd be like, I think I have that card. I don't know if I do, and they would let me know. little story thing that I thought was really cool, or just kind of cute, I guess. I like how Keistis always calls out Squall's shit. Like, this is going to be part of my negative thing as well, but Squall has this whatever, and I love when she calls him out. Like, she knows what he's gonna say. She repeats his shit and gets a laugh out of it. He's like, "I'm more complex than you think," as he flicks his hair to the side. What a fucker. That is a negative, though, that I will say. I really forgot how bad he was. Okay, my complaint about Cloud in Final Fantasy VII was his abrasiveness, his negative attitude was very abrasive, and I didn't care for it because I didn't understand the justification behind it. He kicks the door in. Number one, he's fighting with Avalanche. You understand early in the game, Final Fantasy VII spoilers, I guess, you've been warned. You find out early in the game that Cloud is fighting with Avalanche because of the money. That's what he's there for. You're like, yeah, I'll do this mission for you because you're going to pay up. My complaint with that is sometime in the first disc, at some point, even though he says he doesn't care about the world and doesn't care about what's going on, he acts like he just doesn't care about the world's problems. He like full tilt shifts and is like, yes, I care about the world. We need to save the world. And I must have missed some dialogue or something. I don't know when that happened or why it happened, but it happened. In 8, and again, just talking of the story where I am right now, Squall has not had a tonal shift, but that's not my problem with him. He is an asshole. He is a fucking asshole. Like, he is cold, and he is written to be this, like, he takes whatever to a whole new level. Like, his other CD members are coming to him with problems, and he's like blowing them off. Like, I don't care. Why would I care? I don't want to be burdened with your problems. I'm not here to help you. And it's like, dude, what the fuck? Like, why are you written this way? This could be some story thing that I'm not remembering. Who knows? But they are completely writing the antagonist. I'm sorry. They're writing the protagonist as being more of a dick than the antagonist at the time, which was Cypher. And I'm fine with that. That's definitely out there, and that's very renegade thought for me, but there needs to be a fucking reason or two or several soon of why it needs to be justified. I know that there's a cutscene in like disc 3 or disc 4 at some point where he's all like lovey-dovey over Renoa. So I know his true feelings are gonna come out. That's gonna be his baby girl. But as far as how he goes from the evil asshole to the I love you Renoa, I don't know that, and I don't know why right now he is such an asshole. And it like really rubs me the wrong way. It just, like, fuck you, Squall. We'll see how that goes. So all that being said, this is going to be pretty much my week for the next, until I beat the game. This is going to be my progress report. I'm just going to keep going through this game. I'm really having an open mind, which is, again, for me, it's easy. I would see this maybe being a problem for somebody like Adam, or not just picking on him, but anybody else that thinks that this game is so horrible. The fact that it's been close to 2 decades since I have last played this game, the fact that I have forgotten damn near every story thing that's coming along, me going to like the Tomb of the Forgotten King, and hell, even the train thing, I just forgot about all these little story points in this game. It's almost like playing the game brand new, and I'm it's not really that I'm making myself have an open mind. I really have an open mind. I may walk away from this game thinking that it's pretty good. It's definitely not the best. Even at this early stage, this is not Final Fantasy VI, not Final Fantasy 12. But maybe it'll end up maybe a little less than Final Fantasy 4 material. That's giving it some solid credit. But yeah, man, again, it's not horrible so far. And it's even got like little humor things in it. Like I see where some of the humor's coming from, and I get some of it's kind of cheesy, but it's kind of cute. It's some of the humor is really catching me and making me laugh. I keep every time that Zell goes way the fuck over the top and Squall's like, "Wish you calm down." I'm like, that's like everybody and their fucking mother talking to me. Like I'm so fucking energetic and wild, and people are like, "Oh God." I can relate to you, Zell. I just would not get a tattoo on my face. I just would not do that. I don't know what kind of world Final Fantasy VIII's world's like, but you have a tattoo on your face. I'm trying to think of anything else that really, really got to me or really stuck out. Oh, so one of my complaints back in the day was I was really confused and thrown off about the whole, you're playing as these three main characters and out of nowhere, you're Laguna, Ward, and Kyros. Again, as it being so early in the story, I don't know why that is. I know it's told later. I know all of that gets revealed and everything makes sense and connects, but it hasn't been so jarring. It definitely is jarring when you're just suddenly controlling these three people, but they're still using the same battle system. It's still three people talking. They have some kind of connection. They're like a squad, just like you are. So, that hasn't been like, man, that has not been I'm playing as Solid Snake. Oh, fuck you. You're not playing as Raiden. Yeah, you're not playing as Solid Snake anymore. Deal with it. This is more like what's going on? Why am I playing as these? Why are they connected? It'll get revealed later. We'll see. We'll see how I take all that. It's going to be interesting all the way through to see how I take this entire game as a whole. So far, it is what it is. It's pretty interesting, and I'm playing through it. So that's my Octopath Traveler talk right there, boy. So yeah. I can't wait. I really can't wait to hear Adam's thoughts on all this. I did tell him, I think yesterday that I was playing through it. He was like, "You son of a bitch. Why aren't you playing through Xenogears?" And I'll say this. I wish he was here to hear it, but I'll tell this to you as well, Chris. I actually debated that too, cause I would like to go back to Xenogears. The problem with Xenogears is that when I think about that last part of the game, when I think about that huge fucking text exposition dump, combined with the fact that I've had to have Adam tell me 2 or 3 separate times what the whole story of the game was, and even then I felt like I had a cursory knowledge of what the story was, I don't want to get into Xenogears and like that game, and then halfway through or more go, fuck this story. Fuck this story, which means fuck this game. Mm-hmm. And I'm nervous about that. I don't want that to happen. I felt that with at least Final Fantasy VIII, I have a clean slate. I don't know. Maybe I won't like it, but I know that's going to be way later. I don't know if I'm going to dislike that game or not. I feel like I'm going to get through Xenogears and go, I'm fucking lost again. I'm lost again. I don't fucking get it. And that's not any mentality I want to have when I'm playing a video game.
Yeah.
We'll see. Right. Send me an email, Adam. Tell me what you think about it. Send the email at adamtimecast@gmail.com. Tell me your thoughts on Xenogears. I'm going to put the slam brakes on, Chris. We're going to take a full left turn.
Okay.
For this tangent episode. Let's talk about zombies.
All right.
Let's do this. So
let me just sit back and get ready for your little rant.
I have such mixed feelings about zombies, man. Oh man. So my biggest introduction to the zombie scene was back in the time of Resident Evil 1, back at the time when I played it. We're talking maybe 96, 95 at the earliest. Resident Evil was one of the first PlayStation games I ever played. It was a very fortunate set of circumstances. I got to play Suikoden 1, Resident Evil, Doom, and Twisted Metal 2 all in the same go. Like, the person that let me borrow the PlayStation let me borrow all 4 games at the same time, which I love regurgitating the story. The condition was I could borrow these games and this PlayStation for like 2 weeks, but the problem was he was stuck in Suikoden 1, and he gave me his memory card, said if you can get me past this stuck point, then, that's the condition. That's the payment for me letting you borrow this, or me letting you borrow my PlayStation. Apparently he was stuck very early in the game, within literally like the first 10-15 minutes of the game. And I understood why. There was a section of the map he had to go to, or a section of Greg mystery he had to go to, and you could kind of miss that opening. So I found it naturally, and he was like, oh man, I didn't even realize. Like, yeah, I could see the way the bushes were set up. You really couldn't, it really wasn't meant to be like there wasn't a walkway or a path. Anyway, so first games I got to play. I don't really know what feelings I had about zombie shit before Resident Evil, but Resident Evil definitely put zombies in the limelight for me. So that was back in 95 or 96. It is now 2018, and zombie shit is still fucking everywhere. Every other TV show is about zombies. Every third movie is about the zombie. It's a post-apocalyptic zombie-ridden area. It's third removed, where it's like, okay, well, this is a zombie post-apocalypse, but the story is so prominent and zombies really have a backseat. Like, you don't really notice the zombie thing. It's more like the survival of the human and the human interaction and politics and all that. Yeah, I get that. It's still fucking zombies there. The flavoring of zombies for me burnt out like a decade ago, if not more. Like, I just kept seeing zombie stuff everywhere, and kept seeing stuff and kept seeing stuff. And I'm sick and tired of seeing it to this day. And it's more like I've thrown my arms up and going, fuck it. This is apparently the world loves it. This is some like niche that this world can't get enough of. There's so many other things I'd like to see more. I really thought when Pirates of the Caribbean was coming out, I really thought that like the pirate thing was going to be a real big thing. And granted, there have been other pirate style movies, and there have been some pirate TV shows, I guess. We were graced with Assassin's Creed Black Flag at some point, but I haven't felt like pirates have had this fucking thing like zombies have. Like, zombies are fucking everywhere. There's zombie conventions. There's escape rooms that are themed around zombies. There's zombie parade style shit in the middle of June. I mean, it's everywhere. And yeah, like, I know it makes you sound like an asshole. I get it. I'm an asshole, but I'm just so sick and fucking tired of seeing zombies, to the point to where video game, TV show, movie, whatever, when it's like, in a world where zombies live, stop. I'm not even interested. Nope. I don't even care. I liked the idea of zombies when they first came around, especially Resident Evil. Again, Resident Evil is one that really pushed zombies into the forefront. I don't think I'd ever seen like the old black and white horror zombie kind of movies. I'd really be pressed to think of zombie centric things before Resident Evil. And given as old as Resident Evil was, it's understandable. It was one of my first PlayStation games, so it holds a big place in my heart. And the whole theme of zombies was pretty cool. Resident Evil kind of went off on its own thing, though. Kind of went a little bit crazy with having Wesker being like a red-eyed fucking god guru kind of thing. I don't fucking know what they were doing. Like, after Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil kind of went off the chain. They were kind of getting crazy and wild and out there whenever Code Veronica was around with the brother and the sister, and it was just weird. Anyway, I don't hate everything about zombies. Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3, and Code Veronica and 4, there are some zombie games that have special places in my heart that they're not going to go away just because zombies are there. There are some zombie-themed movies that I still like. I actually genuinely liked DayZ, even though apparently it was not that good compared to the book. Nothing ever is. Yeah. I loved Dawn of the Dead. I've watched that movie like 15 or 20 times. I love that movie. Very good movie. I heard, Chris, that there are some Resident Evil movies, but I don't believe that. I think people are making that up. I think that's a figment of the imagination, even though I also hear that there's like 6 or 7 of those fucking things. So, whatever. And there are some games that have really brought me kind of back around. The Walking Dead is a good example, but that leads into that kind of ties back to the third removed thing I was talking about before, where like, yes, Walking Dead is a video game based off the Walking Dead TV show, which revolves around zombies, but it's more like the show revolves around human shit and zombies revolve around that. That's the same way with this game. Like, yeah, every now and again, zombies are going to break through, a barricade or something, but it's all about the human emotion, the human interaction, human survival, the bureaucracy, the politics, the backstabbing, all that shit. Hell, there's even really fourth removed if you want to say that way, because even Left 4 Dead, I mean, they weren't really zombies. They were infected. They were kind of zombies, but they were more like fungus-ridden mutations than, brain dead, shuffling, sprinting zombies. There's been a plethora of games that I've tried that are zombie themed, and the zombie part just makes me go, whatever, man. I don't know.
I think, thinking about how it's not the focus kind of makes me think of 7 Days to Die.
I don't think I played that one.
No, you haven't. I think it'd be fun for us to play it, but one of the big things for that is, focusing on survival, the base building aspect of it. And, there are zombies out there, but they could be replaced with anything. They could be replaced with, there are wolves in the game, but if they're all wolves, for example.
Yeah.
Sure, a 4-legged animal versus bipedal, but not the point. You're still surviving, still gathering resources, still doing that. So for a survival game, it doesn't really matter what the enemy is.
Yeah.
You still have the same process, and it doesn't really make the game any worse that they're zombies.
Yeah. Zombies just have this, and I say world, it may just be in the US for all I know. I'm not really too well versed on the pop culture of the other 6 continents in the world, but I feel like in the US, like I said it earlier and I kind of mean it. It's more like a flavoring. Like there's just zombie shit injected into everything. And yeah, there's many other types of games and other types of movies, other types of things that we can inject other things into that I think would make it either better or just flat out different, and having a change of palette would be great. Like, why haven't we had like a vampire / werewolf renaissance? We kind of had it back in the day with Underworld. I thought that was going to be the kickoff, but it just kind of came and went. Imagine a survival game where it's humans trying to survive against actual fucking like vampires. Yeah. Like the old, well-tailored, well-dressed, super strong. I think this is another one, man. I wish Adam was here because I know he's played Vampire the Masquerade. Have you played Vampire the Masquerade?
No, I haven't.
Chris? Yeah, and I remember him telling me all the different vampire types. I know right now there's a Masquerade guy just furiously just typing away this keyboard. I forget the type of that vampire, but there's all kinds, and yeah, that'd be a cool flavoring to come back. I wish vampires were a flavoring that would just push fucking zombies out of the way, or pirates, or ninjas, or samurais, or something.
I think that zombies are kind of a easy thing to fall back on, and maybe that's why we've got such a influx of it. Because you just have whatever type of zombies you want to have, and there you go. What are zombies' objectives? Okay, brains or murder or whatever they do, in that world. Whereas if you get into something like pirates, for example, now we're dealing with water, we're dealing with ships, we're dealing with pirates, and, human emotions and motivations, and as opposed to zombie brains,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a lot more complex.
It's accessible.
Yeah.
I think is a big takeaway from zombies, is a big finger point at zombies, is the fact that there could be some CDC building in Georgia that fucks something up and drops something in it, and the typical way that most of these things happen in most of these stories, and it's so close to being believable that it's in the forefront. I mean, we could make an argument that maybe the time, there are pirates that exist to this day, but today's pirates don't seem anything anywhere near as cool as the fantastic pirates of old, and the fact that this is this is 2018 and not the fucking 1500s or whatever time frame pirates existed, maybe that sets the time span, sets the believability a little way apart. Same thing with like samurais. Well, hell, we're in America, we don't care about samurais. They're really cool. Yeah, they're really cool, but not enough for us to have a resurgence of them. Vampires. Yeah, totally fake, totally fictional. Can't happen. Not gonna happen. So that's not zombies. Oh yeah, a medical mishap. Poof. Population wiped out. And then it's us against each other.
Yeah. Out of all of those, I think vampires are probably the next best option. Because you can do vampires in pretty much any setting. And even, the setting can determine, okay, well, that's what your story is about, Oh, it's a vampire in 2050 with all the cybernetics and stuff,
Yeah.
It
also seems like zombies are a good bridge between different cultures and interests. Just strictly pointing a finger at The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead is enough, and this really ties into our episode about nerd culture, but The Walking Dead in and of itself is a good middle ground, a good bridge, a good midway point between a super fucking nerd that has, fucking zombie t-shirts and loves all things zombies and has played every zombie video game, when he goes to work and talks to the football guy that's like, yeah, I was watching Walking Dead last night. Well, oh, what happened when Eric brought his crossbow out? Oh, yeah, I thought he was going to shoot Samantha in her head for being a dumb bitch and stealing the crackers. Yeah, it's so easy. It's so accessible as far as could happen, and it's also accessible as bringing people together, where you go talk to a football guy about vampires. I don't know. I mean, there was the fucking HBO vampire show that everybody loved for whatever reason.
Oh. Yeah, that was interesting.
I genuinely do hate talking this way about this shit, because I feel like I'm being one of those guys. I feel like I'm being one of those people that I hate this because it's popular. And I kind of don't as well, because I stopped feeling that way like 6 to 8 years ago when the shit kept being popular, but it was run into the ground. I don't hate zombies because zombies are popular. I hate it because I just keep seeing more and more and more and more zombie shit. And coming from a video game mindset to where, like Octopath Traveler, or like you said, it hasn't like totally blown you out of the water. It hasn't completely reinvented the wheel. It's more RPG stuff that I don't feel that there are many zombie things that have reinvented the zombie flavoring that have made me go, oh man, Left Behind is close. But it still skirts the line. It skirts the line of that zombie feel. I'm waiting for, I don't know, man. I'm waiting for some zombie thing to come out and really change the thing. The last time that I saw something that was really supposed to like change the scope was, I think it was DayZ, where it showed all the zombies like piling on top of each other. and kind of Zerg rushing into a building and using like the other zombie bodies to climb over themselves. I thought that was pretty cool, but that's a one-time gimmick. Once I seen that and seen the other 4 to 10 movies that were copying that, I'm like, well, now this is done. Like, I don't know how. Instead of me being a whiny, nitpicky asshole and saying, I'm sick and tired of zombie shit, let me think critically. Let us think critically, Chris. How could we flavor up the flavoring of zombies? How could we change the game of zombies to make it where it's actually interesting and not just a thing anymore?
Man, put me on the spot. I think, like I was saying, it's a really accessible thing. It's really easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be something that's not so easy to do, you know. What's going on, you know, why... Give some more thought behind why there are zombies, you know, other than, it's a disease thing that killed people and brought them back to life, or even, it's this plant that takes them over and turns them into a zombie.
Yes. I think that's something that The Last of Us did. I said Left Behind earlier for some fucking reason. I was thinking about a movie. I was really thinking of The Last of Us, but that's something that I did like about The Last of Us. This is a plus for that game, is that it's in spirit zombies. They're essentially mindless. They're very one focus. You know, zombies, their one focus is eating brains for whatever reason. Their one focus is eating people. That's what the infected are. That's what the God, what were there was a scientific name for the disease that made them. But anyway, their theme was the fungus thing. It wasn't just we dropped a tube into a lab, it made a virus. They basically look like their skin is dead and they're running at you and they're eating your flesh. Yeah. They all have different attributes. This is kind of the same thing that Left 4 Dead did, that I wish other movies would pick up on, like having types, like having that video game appeal to it, of having different types and not just, it's just a wall of Walking Dead, you know, having a bloater, having a clicker, having a smoker, you know, having these different types where it would be interesting just to see how they even came about. But then but having them in a movie or another video game, that makes it interesting to me.
And that's, you know, kind of a downside of doing a variety as well, is because, okay, well, how do you explain this? You know, how do you explain a bloater? Okay. Yeah. Is it just a buildup of gas? But then, okay, that's not really, okay. It explodes and, okay, you got farted on essentially.
Well,
but if you have a bloater like from Left 4 Dead where it's filled with acid or something like that, you know, okay, well, how does that work? Okay, let's get to some science behind this. What is going on here? That's harder to do than your run-of-the-mill, either fast or slow zombies that are basically just, you know, some state of decay of a human.
I agree, but I think it's worth it.
Yeah.
You know, I think it'd be hard to do, especially in a movie setting. If we're just talking, a TV show could do it easy. You know, you have a TV show that's 45 minutes to an hour per episode, you know, times 15 episodes. You can spend a good amount of time with, you know, 5 variations of zombie types and explaining whether it's how you do it. I don't know. I hope you do it creatively and not just fucking text dump and not just, you know, I'm the dumb guy, I don't know what's going on, let me explain it to you, Solid Snake. However you do it, I think it could be done. I think the payoff of just having the different things there makes it worth it. You know, give the zombies more weaknesses. You know, that's another thing that I like about vampires. You know, they have these weaknesses in them. Same thing with werewolves. Same thing with most of these monsters. They have weaknesses. What's the weakness of zombie? You just fucking shoot them in the head. That's all it's ever going to be, is just shoot them in the head. Well, you can't really shoot a runner because they fucking run fast. You can try to headshot them. You can't really headshot a smoker because they're jumping all over the fucking place and they're using smoke as a screen, so it's hard to see them. It would at least add to it. I think that really boils down to one of the things that I severely dislike about the zombie as a flavoring thing, period, is the fact that it's all basically the same.
Yeah. I got one for you. What about zombies in a future technology where we got cybernetics, but we go too far and the chips interfacing with the brain just starts like short-circuiting the brain, and now people are just drooling around mindlessly and just, the violent. It's not a like urge to feed on brains. It's just violent outbursts.
Yes. Now that's.
But then they have cybernetic limbs. So you have zombies with laser pistols attached to their hands.
Man. Oh man, that's nice. Did you just create Cyberpunk 2088? I think you did. I bet I'm willing to bet money that's going to be a thing in this game. It's probably going to be. It's probably not the first one to do it either, but. Yeah, I think what is the name of that? Deus Ex Human Revolution. Mm-hmm. I think that game had it kind of had something like that where somebody was actually hacking in and they were kind of controlling the people. I mean, come on, Ghost in the Shell had the same thing too.
Yeah, I like that. Any of those games. So
yeah, I like the idea of something just like trying to take its own sentience over and just taking over a person. But it's especially with it being like a cyborg, so it doesn't actually it's not a full robot. It's like the human is conflicting with the cyborg, with the cybernetic parts. Oh man, that's a good idea. I like that. All right, so tune in everybody for 2023 when Cyberpunk 2088 gets released. You heard it right here, folks, in a Timecast.
You're welcome.
What are some notable zombie-themed whatever forms of media, Chris, that are notable in your life? Some zombie shit that was actually good and you really enjoy?
I think I've been kind of indifferent towards them overall. Left 4 Dead, that's such a great game. But it doesn't really... Sure, it focuses on zombies, but really it's a shooter. So it's another one like 7 Days to Die. You replace the zombies with something else, you'd have a pretty good game still. It may not make as much sense, but I mean, it'd be playable still. But I think as far as movies go, I like the parodies more than the actual movies. Like Shaun of the Dead is a great movie. It is hilarious. So I think that's kind of where my best zombie experiences are with parody movies.
Yeah, it's not always so bad. Like I also like in the zombie movies where they slowly reveal how the shit happened. I'm trying to think of the Will Smith movie. I just talked about it earlier. No, actually, I haven't yet. That was also another good zombie type movie. The I Am Hero, I think it was called. Oh God, I might be completely blowing that title wrong.
I know what you're talking about, but I can't think of it either.
I'm thinking I Am Hero, but that may be wrong. I Am Legend. I Am Legend. God, I was so close.
Just kidding.
I like how they didn't officially actually like have one solid exposition shot of this is how the shit happened. I like how piece by piece, scratch all that. I just like the idea of things the intensity gradually rising. I like that. That was something I liked about Dawn of the Dead, how average day, shit's going normal, and shit slowly starts to show, and then the shit starts to go bad. It goes a little bad, then goes really bad, then goes full-blown chaos, and then goes the world's done. Yeah. I like that. The being right in the middle of it and then having the exposition of how it happened later, I don't care for that too much. I like the gradual, The Last of Us, oh God, oh boy, was that ever a heart-wrenching one. But yeah, it also did that where it was like, yeah, just having an average day, and then you wake up and what's going on? Oh shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good takeaway from the zombie thing, but
you feel better?
I feel a little better. It's a personal journal thing for me to just get that out. My friends know that about me anyway. I mean, I'm sure there are outliers, and I'm sure there are exceptions to the rules, and there's probably a shit ton of sources, be it games or movies or shows that I just haven't tried that maybe they're going to do me much better. It's not the fact that it's popular that I'm sick and tired of seeing the popular thing. I'm just sick and tired of seeing the same thing. I think that was just a revelation earlier, thanks to Chris, that it just that put a piece into place for me. It's the fact that, like, how do you kill zombies? Like, you shoot them in the head, the game's over. That's when I hear zombie, shoot in the head, game over. No matter where you are, I always know that's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Different things, different stories, different antagonists, what have you, will require different ways of dispatching them. And that is interesting to me. So if I see a movie about a zombie, and then I see a movie about a werewolf, and then I see a movie about a bloodthirsty alien, and then I see a movie about a dinosaur, that's all different. And I'm getting fed different things. But the world hasn't been following different things. They've been following Game of Thrones and Walking Dead. So
yeah. And hey, Game of Thrones, zombies.
Yeah. What do you know? When that shit happened, I was like, man, they can't help it. It has to be everywhere. And it's not just a small thing. That is a huge plot point of Game of Thrones. That is a huge plot revelation. Oh, yeah. Zombies.
You know, now let's talk about something real quick. Just thinking about that. That's something that I don't know if you see it as different, but I see that as being pretty much totally different, because this is like, okay, now you're getting into fantasy. Magic's involved, you know?
Yeah.
They're not just out for brains. They're literally under the control of something else, you know, versus the generic plague zombie brains. So I don't, even though I made that comment, I don't really feel like it should be lumped into the same pile, you know?
I suppose, but it's more of just it's more like I kept waiting for that shit to happen. I was waiting to see what this big thing was and what all this hubbub was about. And then it was, oh yeah, they're dead. We bring them back to life. And yes, I will admit, whenever we did not even mention spoilers for Game of Thrones, but sorry, spoilers for Game of Thrones. You've been warned. Whenever they killed the dragon in whatever last season, mm-hmm. and then they fucking pulled the dragon out of the ice and brought his ass back to life, I did think that was very fucking cool. Mm-hmm. I was like, yeah, that's cool. But yeah, I don't know. I'm so up and down with the walking horde or whatever the fuck it is. Mm-hmm. It's the dragon being undead is cool, but at the end of the day, there's a fucking guy that's magic somehow, and he's controlling the dead. You're going to kill him, the dead are going to be gone. Maybe. Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah.
It didn't blow my skirt up. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
But that's a Game of Thrones discussion. That's a whole other episode for a whole nother day. So, at the end of the day, with the two of the three of us anyway, you're basically indifferent to zombies. You don't have any misgivings. You see zombie shit pop on the screen, you're like, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really... Well, I'll watch like a lot of zombie movies. Never really cared for them. Like I said, I enjoy the parodies as comedies more than anything. When I see them in games, don't really care. You know, because games are pretty much about the gameplay and the story. You gotta have, one of those, and whether it involves zombies or not, whatever. I'm indifferent.
Yeah. I'm just an old asshole. That's all there is to it. Fuck you, zombies. I'm sick and tired of seeing you. Can you all get wiped off the map? Can we get something else in here? Something else that's going to unite the world the way The Walking Dead did. The way that zombies the whole zombie apocalypse has done. Mm-hmm. I'm just so sick and tired of seeing that. In a world where the zombie apocalypse has happened. It's like, yep, switch. Mm-hmm. So what about you, audience? What are your thoughts on zombies as a whole? Like, what do you think about them? Are you indifferent? Do you love them? Do you hate them? What are some interesting zombie themed pieces of media that you've come across as very interesting? What shit could you recommend to me that maybe will turn my mind around? Believe me, I'm always open to try different things. Have you played Final Fantasy VIII in the past 20 years? What are your... Oh, boy. Keep it spoiler free, for God's sakes. But what are your thoughts on... What are your thoughts on Final Fantasy as a whole? Like, where did Final Fantasy put you? What mind frame did Final Fantasy VIII put you in? Octopath Traveler, we'd love to hear your thoughts on that, especially since it's so fresh and new. You know, how are you taking that game? Before playing it and now that you're playing it, you know, if you knew about it ahead of time, if you saw previews or quick looks as well, whatever. And just anything in general. We always love to hear from our audience. And there's many ways you can get a hold of us. You can send us an email at endoftimecast@gmail.com. That's endoftimecast@gmail.com. No funny letters, numbers in there. Just spell it as you heard it. We have a Facebook page. That might be how you found us. Just go to Facebook, search for End of Timecast. Might be how you found this episode right here. You can also find us on Twitter. You search Twitter for End of Timecast. You can send us one of those tweets. Still haven't been tweeted yet. We will one day. Yeah, that's going to do it for this episode. Hopefully Adam will be back next week. We have a plethora of topics lined up anyway, but, hopefully he'll be back, and, yeah, we'll catch you guys next week. And until then, I'm Michael.
I'm Chris.
Good night, everybody.